Goal! Yes, 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 yes! That was a goal! Striker! Eat that! And another! Bing bang, stick it in! Thank you and good night! Twat! That was liquid football! Shit! Did you see that?
Hello, everybody. It's your old friends at Monday Madness, and welcome to another episode of the That Was Liquid Football podcast. Joined as ever by my two colleagues, Neil and Bert Bob. Lads, football is officially back. We've been watching.
Over.
It's already over. Yes, I was the first to say that. Yeah. Johnny, you will be shocked to hear that I'm more jovial than most episodes. I don't know what is it. It must be the new benzodiazepines I'm on lately. But either way, I'm having a very lovely time right now, and I didn't realise Chelsea could be the key to that happiness. But here we are. These are the strange times we live in. Frank Lampard's Chelsea, of course. Yeah. I had to get in their full name, or else I just disrespect their contribution to what is Liverpool winning the Premier League.
Oh, can't they sue you for copyright if you don't call them the FLC?
No, the FLC is taken, I think.
All right.
Yeah, so it's actually the other way around. If you call them the FLC, then the FLC sue you for confusing them with Frank Lampard's Chelsea. It's really fucking confusing, to be honest with you. That's why I just don't get involved in it. So anyway, before we get on with the serious business of celebrating Liverpool's 30-year wait for a Premier League trophy, I realise I'm not in the right company for this, but here we are. So let's move on then to our meat and bones of this podcast, which is our Premier League rundown.
Feel the power of the gladiators. Can you face the challenge of the champions? Do you have the courage of a hero? Do you have the will and the skill? Do you have the speed, the strength, the heart to be a winner? It's not for beginners. Deep down in your soul, are you a gladiator?
Boy, does it feel so good to play that jingle again. So we've had an arsenal of football to talk about, but of various different levels of quality. So there's going to be a lot of matches we're going to just breeze through because literally nothing happened. The ratio of 0-0 and 1-1 draws in these fixtures is pretty bad. But weren't we kind of expecting it to be that way, really?
Yeah, the players have been out for 3 months. It's now hotter weather than they would be used to playing regularly in. It's just, you can't expect teams as well to in this kind of unknown kind of when our managers have had time to think, they've had time to tinker with their formations, and some teams might consider themselves safe, so therefore they have that kind of or they've met their requirements already for the season, like teams staying up and stuff like that. So they give young blood a chance, and it's kind of just a bit of a mess, I suppose. You can't predict what's going to happen, so managers are being real cautious. I that's what I have found since the return, is that the plays have been quite cautious. Managers, kind of holding back, I suppose, on attacking football in order to be safe.
Yeah, I think I've been kind of get that vibe as well, because I think they're all terrified of a hamstring or an ACL happening, which I think the studies from all the other leagues have said the rates have gone up by nearly 250%. So they're all terrified of their star player or their captain just suddenly snapping a hamstring, turning, because as you said, all their bodies are in their off-peak periods now, so they're not designed to run. They're designed to eat, sleep, and potentially have sex if you're Kyle Walker. So yeah, it's not great. As it has kind of shown on the pitch. In fairness, the football has been pretty poor in most places. There's been one or two good matches, but it's because those are the bigger teams with better facilities and better, like, basically a bit like
squad depth.
Yeah, exactly. Squad depth as well, big factor. So in a way, like,
I do think
them to be better.
I think people looking at football from a tactical point of view would be quite interested to see the way these 5 substitutions have been allowed and how they've been brought in.
And also the fact that the 5 substitutions can't be made in 5 stages; they have to be made in 3.
Yes.
So you can only make 3 stages of substitutions.
Exactly. So you might have a game plan going into a match, but as we have found out as Arsenal fans, that like within 4 minutes that could go out the window when your captain goes down and, you know, done his ankle and stuff. But like kind of these kind of unforced or kind of planned substitutions can throw off the substitution tactics that you've had for the game. Yeah. And then you're kind of, I think it's been really interesting to see, like, some managers have coped really well with that and then some managers have not, and I suppose we'll get talking about it as we go through some of the matches, but I found that an interesting aspect of this. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, as you said, like, we might as well just jump into the matches then, because we have 2 and a bit match days to go through, which was a very quick succession. We're basically having 2 match days a week now just to get the season wrapped up. So there was 2 matches left over from before the lockdown, which were teams that were cup tied. And the 2 of them in particular was, first off, Aston Villa versus Sheffield United, which is technically our first game back. And I just want you guys at home to picture the scene here, right? Rushing home to get back, and the 3 of us all set up a Zoom call going, oh yeah, the football's back, let's go and enjoy this match. Overlapping centre-backs versus Jack Grealish and his floppy hair. This is going to be great fucking crack. Fucking nothing happens for 45 minutes. Literally just nothing. Like a big ball of nothing and more nothing. And the only thing that was actually interesting from it was because literally nothing happened on a goal that should have happened. Like, that was the match, was the fact that, like, goal and technology failed. And, like, pretty like blatantly failed, because, like, even from in real time you could tell that ball crossed the line. But because essentially there was too many people blocking all 7 cameras, apparently they couldn't give it. And then Nyland apparently was clever enough to, like, tap the ball with the goalpost. So then the camera couldn't, like, retroactively look back at it. So a real kick in the balls for Sheffield United, in fairness, because that goal, whichever way you cut it, should have been given. Like, and the fact that VAR didn't intervene was just so baffling. Like, surely you could just roll back the footage and prove it.
Yeah, it was terrible. I mean, you take a look at it and Nyland's basically fucking hashed the catch. Which is pretty much a routine catch. It should have gone down as an own goal for him.
Yeah, that was it.
He catches the ball and then stumbles backwards because he's mistimed his jump so badly. And he stumbled backwards with the ball in his hands and fallen into the goal with it. And he's fallen into the side netting with the ball still in his hands. And it's one of the craziest fucking things I've ever seen a professional goalkeeper do. Like, honestly, like, I've played in some fucking dire amateur matches in my time, and I've never seen a goalkeeper fucking fall into the goal, the ball still in his hands. And then to compound that with VAR not giving it because it wasn't switched on. I was going,
basically, that's all it was. It was literally no one fucking switched on the cameras. Or at least that's what they're saying. They've covered their arse by saying, yeah, all 7 cameras were blocked. Mad how that works, isn't it?
And for once, you can't really blame, like, Michael Oliver was the ref, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was so desperate to give it. He knew himself like it was a goal, but he's obliged to go by the watch. Like,
that's it. So it's kind of the thing is, you can't actually blame him because he's like, I have to rely on the technology is here for me to rely on. So if it says no goal, I have to go with no goal.
Exactly. What I found the funniest was the reaction of one of the Sheffield United assistants, and like they're all there, like Chris Wilder just had a chat with the referee, and like Chris Wilder is like he's pretty blunt at the best of times, being a Yorkshireman, and he had to walk up, get explained to by the referee what happened, and then explain to his own assistant coaches who are presumably like him. And they're all there with like lovely little cups of tea, like actual cups as well, which I found so endearing. And he's there just going like, you can see him out of what happened. And then one of the assistant coaches just like is so livid. You can see the cup shaking and he's just fucking shaking his head. He's ready to kill every single hawk in the planet because the system failed. Like, So funny. It says so much about the football that like that was the only interesting thing to happen, really.
No, nothing else happened. Like nothing else happened in that match. Like except I drank more alcohol in preparation for my nerves hitting in for the upcoming match.
Yes, and as it turns out, you are very correct with that approach, because what happened was a typical glorious self-destructive Arsenal performance. Yeah, like it was great. It was like watching.
Really, a glorious self-destructive David Luiz performance.
This is where it kind of like obviously watching this with you guys and with alcohol, I wasn't really I suppose cognizant of all the things going around on the pitch that I've since looked back on and kind of looked at tactics wise, what were we trying to do? Because I remember when we got the team sheet, we were going, what the fuck is this team? Like, it was really young. We had Nketiah, we had Willock, Saka. We had no Pepe, we had no Ozil, and this was kind of the talking points like that, like, oh my God, he hasn't included the big players or whatever. Tactically, looking back at it, I can see where he's coming from. I think I might have said it on the call at the time. I kind of twigged that Manchester City had no warm-up matches coming into the match. Maybe tire them out with all the young lads running around, and then pick off the more finesse players in the second half, bring them on, have a chance to go. I do think that was probably part of his plan. Yeah. But straight in the match, we've got Xhaka go down with a badly sprained ankle, and then our new centre back Mari gets taken off. So within the first 20 minutes, or the first half anyway, we lose 2 players.
Yeah, 20 minutes. Mari went off after 21 minutes.
Yeah.
21 minutes. It just feels like Louise came on and made an instant impact, but obviously
he sure did.
Yeah, but like those were 2 separate substitutions, which meant that like Arteta then had like 3 substitutes that like had to be made all at the same time. So he had to pick a time in the match. I just think everything just got so fucked up. But yeah, we probably could have hung on. We'll never know if we could have, except David Luiz, fucking sideshow Bob clown of a man.
Yeah.
Destroyed all hope. I know Neil would probably be a bit more eloquent and angry about this, but
is there any really point to me? Like, it's even looking back at it, it's just like you couldn't even blame it on being cold or being like out of like ring rust or something. He just puts his leg up in the air and expects it to be able to hit it off his shin or something and volley it out. It's just purely like not thinking about what you're doing.
It's mental. Like,
my dad messaged me and he was like, I did not expect to come away from the Etihad with a win. He was like, I even less expected to turn my TV off and shout at the cat for 40 minutes about David Luiz ruining my club. So yeah, at halftime, after Luiz, whatever the penalty, he conceded the penalty, my dad turned off the match and shouted at the cat for 40 minutes. So, that broke him, I think. He's been an Arsenal fan for, 40 years, but that broke him.
That's what it was, yeah. And that was, and then obviously the penalty happened as well. And like, you couldn't even like question it. He is just literally just pulling out of the fucking City player. Like, what else were you expecting?
That's the thing. Like the mad thing about it was that people were like, "Oh, I thought they did away with the double penalty, like the double
fault, yeah,
jeopardy,
the double fault,
double jeopardy, yeah."
And I went double jeopardy, and I went, "Well, yeah, they have done. Had he made a legitimate attempt to play the fucking ball."
Yeah,
so
that was it.
Had he tried to slide tackle, missed the ball, and took him out, he'd have gotten a yellow and conceded a penalty. But he absolutely did not do that.
Quite the opposite.
Yeah. So he was on the pitch for fucking
24 minutes or something like total playing time.
Half an hour, yeah, about that, yeah.
Absolutely. So like there's a reason he didn't start. And like, holy shit, like
just the dread in the room is just something else. Like it was just a despair. And I think what makes it worse is that like he has this performance, which is perhaps one of the worst performances you'll see on a pitch since Dejan Lovren, and that's saying a lot. Like, and then you don't compound this. Like after seeing him play perhaps his worst match of his career, like slung off after 30 minutes, being sent off, conceded the first goal, conceded a penalty, red card. Like that's a 0 out of 10 for a centre back, and then you compound them by giving them an extra year. Like,
yeah, I think that's purely a case of we won't be able to sell him on for any money, so we're not going to get any money back for him, and like trying to buy in someone to replace him is going to be too expensive. If it was me personally, I would take whichever fucking graduate is coming up to our academy over him. For the rest of the season. Like our season is now, I'm not saying based on this Man City match, again, I wasn't expecting to come away from the Etihad with a win. At most I was hoping for, and I was like, on a day you look at the team sheets, we could easily grab a draw if we don't, decide to hand fucking goals over to Kevin De Bruyne and Sterling. I know De Bruyne didn't score, but like he fucking masterful. But
he scored the penalty.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sterling didn't score. He scored the first goal, and then De Bruyne. Foden, I think, after that.
Foden knocked it in like the 93rd or 90.
Yeah, something like that.
94th minute.
Yeah, like Go on ahead there. Sorry.
No, just say like 3-0 is it looks rough on paper, but when you take the 2 goals that David Luiz handed them on a golden fucking platter. And that last goal being in the 90, whatever minute. Yeah, like I'm not saying we should have won that match. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that if we didn't have David Luiz on the pitch, who knows how we could have gotten on in that match.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like tactically we weren't awful. I did like the idea of running around and and bringing on maybe Pepe at the end to kind of fucking waste them, with his pace, but we never get to know. We never know what Arteta's plan should have been.
Yeah.
Between the injuries and the substitutes in the first half, and then David Luiz ruining everything for everyone. Yep,
exactly. And as I said, like Arsenal do continue this rich rate of form going into what would be match day 30. We have a few games in between though before then. The Friday night football at the time was a 3-0 hammering by Southampton against Norwich. I actually watched this game myself, just really good goals. Like, I'm not going to lie, to see an Ingsy score again just warms my Scouser heart, knowing that he's still doing bits for someone else. And Redmond scored a cracker as well. So secret Irishman, Nathan Redmond. And Spurs and Man United then had a 1-1 draw, that was a pretty good game too, in fairness. I was kind of pleasantly surprised by both teams.
Really? Oh, yeah. Pleasantly surprised both teams played like complete arse.
No, they were fairly okay. Now Harry Kane, not so much. Jesus Christ, not in the fucking ballpark at all. But the movement of like the likes of Bergwijn and Son on those two flanks really did cause like United a lot of trouble. And then United just came back a good bit, just controlled the field.
Well, this match is pretty much like it's quite famous because it's like Roy Keane. It got Roy Keane back into the meme, the meme thing because he went mad. And funnily enough, I actually kind of agree with him on a lot of it. I don't agree you should punch a goalkeeper if he makes a mistake, but I do agree that David De Gea shouldn't be making those mistakes.
He shouldn't be, no.
Same with Maguire, although Maguire seemed to have dug United out of it because he just scored the winning goal against Norwich in the FA Cup there, up through the semis. But in any case, yeah, so Bergwijn shouldn't have been allowed to get where he did. So Shaw kind of lets him run away. Maguire lets him get goal side, which is something you never do when you're a defender.
Yeah.
And then, so Bergwijn, having gotten to this great place for us. Now, don't get me wrong, I know he's only a wee lad, but I reckon he could kick a ball very fucking hard.
He does, actually. He does have a bit of fizz in him.
He does welly it, but he's still, like, he wellies it straight at De Gea. So, like, all De Gea has to do, really, is just stay still.
Smother it, yeah.
Stay still, and not even smother it, but just bounce it out. Like if somebody thumps something right at you in a position where they should not have been in, just keep the ball out. It doesn't fucking matter. Like, if the ball pings straight off you and straight back to him and he scores, nobody's looking at you. You shouldn't have been in the place to fucking score the goal to begin with.
Yeah.
But to have the ball go in off your wrist, having it been fired at you, for somebody who's supposedly one of the best keepers on the planet.
Daniel Murray isn't. Let's be honest. We were saying this before the lockdown. Like,
yeah, no, we were saying this. We were saying this before the lockdown, but a lot of people could write us off as just piling in on United because none of us like them. And there is a degree of truth to that.
yeah, in fairness, you can see where they're coming from.
But like, he's racking up like Shaw looks like he's come back from the lockdown really heavy. He's been hitting the Rancher's burgers. He looks really slow. And like Maguire, I never really rated him much as a defender. And he was terrible. And yeah, De Gea, we've been saying he's been getting error prone.
Yeah, he has been. Yeah.
That's a howler. That's an absolute fucking howler.
It is, especially for someone who, again, as you said, so it's supposed to be one of the best keepers in the league.
World.
But yeah, in the world, yeah, true. So, Bertbot, moving on then to the Saturday games, and we want to talk about some actual proper good goals in a game that had literally nothing happen to it until the 90th minute. Talk to us about Watford-Leicester, the Nigel Pearson derby.
I don't know. I think I was messaging you guys just saying this is a really fucking end-to-end game.
Yeah.
Now, Watford that we're playing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you're correct.
So going into this match, I was like, these are the ones with Traore, and they're doing really well at the minute. And it actually took a long time for me to figure out that these were actually the relegation ended W team and not the Europe kind of chasing team. Because they played really fucking well. It was end to end. Keepers were kept relatively busy, but it wasn't entirely being peppered with shots, but it was just good open play for the neutral or the clueless, if you will. It was quite enjoyable to watch. Then I felt it was against the run of play. Chilwell went up and scored a fucking screamer in the 89th minute. Oh, like, just fucking whips it in. And I was like, oh my God, that's so bad for Watford. They didn't deserve that. But straight away, from the kickoff almost, Watford got their equaliser. And there wouldn't have been a team that deserved it more because it was a fantastic game of football. It was like what I've been like watching the Bundesliga, where it's kind of like, I don't know who these teams are. These are great. Except I knew Leicester, but like, I wouldn't be a fan of them. I would just, I can appreciate if they've good players, and I really fucking rate Chilwell. Oh my God. A couple of other decent players, but Chilwell, obviously with the goal stood out, but I do, I've been kind of keeping an eye out in that position. That would have been the position I would have played in school, like kind of that left wing, left back kind of thing. So I always kind of try and keep an eye out for that kind of player and good things that they do. And I just feel like as an attacking option, he's very good, but also his defensive positioning was quite good as well.
You can kind of see why Chelsea really want them, or have been rumoured to really, really want them.
And City as well.
City.
Yeah, I can definitely see City putting in about like a
multi. I would prefer City to get him and then forget about Saka.
Yeah, in fairness, like I think it would probably suit most parties there. The one thing I found about the Watford goal is that, like, Watford player scores an overhead kick. It's like, oh yeah, Deulofeu, yeah, he did something. Oh, wasn't Deulofeu? Oh, it must have been that new guy, Sarr. It wasn't Sarr. Was it Deeney? No, of course it's not Deeney. Don't be stupid. Craig Dawson, of all people. The one person.
I thought he was dead.
No, do you know what? I know exactly what you did, right? I'd say you confused him for fucking Gareth McCauley, his mate at West Brom. I guarantee you that's what you're thinking. Because I know how your brain works. I know you know Gareth McCauley, but you don't know the guy who used to be beside him at Brommy. You're thinking about it now, and I know how your brain works. That's what you've been thinking about.
No.
Okay, all right. Let's move on before we expose Burkbot as a fraud here. Well, actually, speaking of frauds, Brighton 2, Arsenal 1. Neil, it's all yours. Talk to us about this game.
Pretty much. I mean, Arsenal, we just played pretty much exactly like what we are, which is a work in progress still. It was ridiculous, you know. This was really a must-win match, or at the very least, it was a must-not-lose match. And of course, with Arsenal going into these types of things, we really, really fucking did our best to do it. So I mean, fucking losing Leno to what looked like a horrendous ACL injury, after Mopé shoved him in the fucking midair, which we've gone into previous podcasts. Boy, this isn't fucking punishable by anything, but. And then, of course, he would go and score the fucking winner. So yeah, I mean, it was fucking. It was just a fucking terrible, fucking awful match. It really fucking was.
Yeah.
So I
will just jump in there with the Leno thing. We've seen before when we have an Arsenal player get a horrific injury where their leg points the wrong way, and that mentally affects the team. And you know, we saw it at Stoke. We've seen it at Stoke again. Stoke again. No, we've seen that, like, the Arsenal players, like, you know, they just can't move on from the injury, and I feel like that kind of happened during this match. And like, what I found kind of, I know it's been talked about in other like medias and other podcasts, where Leno's the only one kind of pointing the finger, and he's like literally sitting up on the stretcher, like shouting at Maupay, going like, "You fucking did this, you cunt." And none of the other players kind of got riled up. Like, I know if that was me, and I've been there where I've been stretchered off the pitch and my team rallies behind me and then goes off to win the game, for Burkbot, way. There was none of that. There wasn't any of that. It was, oh shit, Leno's gone. Really. Fuck now.
Yeah, it kind of should be pointed out that, like, in the City game, until like David Luiz decided to make his mark, Leno was pretty much keeping us in it.
Yeah. Like, he's been our player of the season, like, by a country fucking mile. Pepe's goal was brilliant, but I know I cheered and I was like, woo, this is great. Like, let's kick on from here. There was no fucking kick on. It was, oh shit, we're 1-0 up away from home. Let's hold on. And it's like, no, you've got Mustafi in the team. You don't hold on. We have an untested second keeper now in goals. Let's not hold on. That cunt who's after breaking up our keeper is still on the pitch. Let's try and fucking get at him.
Yeah.
And then they waited until after the 90th minute to go up and surround him and choke him and have him flop around on the floor.
I was saying there, I was like, wow, like, where was this attention to Mopé when he was sauntering through the defence in the 91st fucking minute to score the winner? You know, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a cunt and a prick, and we should not accept his fucking apology. Because it was a late tackle on a player who's not in control of their own body.
It's a straight red card in rugby.
Oh yeah, you go off for that in rugby.
I have been simbin for it in GAA.
Yeah.
Like, it is like, it's GAA where you are both meant to be jumping up high for a ball, if you make it look like if you don't hide the fact that you're obviously trying to take them out, then you're getting a sin bin.
Yeah.
It's just, we can't just blame that though, because there was just no. Again, we can say that Arteta didn't get to do his game plan because of substitutions happened to be kind of forced into his game plan with injuries. But with with this game, like, there was just, what really just disappointed me was that there was no kind of kick on. There was no like rallying for the player from any of our squad, and that just has me more frustrated and worried about the team than maybe Arteta's team selection. Or I know, because people are giving out about team selection. Like, I don't have too much of a problem with what he selected compared, look at what he has on offer. But yeah, it just this crushed me.
I think the word I'd use for this is immaturity, because that's kind of what this Arsenal team is at the moment. Like, if you look at, like, there's a distinct lack of leadership in the Arsenal team, and that's not really news at this rate. When you do have, like, your best captain choices are Xhaka and Aubameyang, one player who is so fucking petulant on the pitch, like, his tackling is so bad for a player of his position. And I know he shouldn't be playing this position, but he ends up playing it anyway. Like, he's so rash as a player. You don't want someone like him as a captain. I understand in the club internally, he's a very good captain and he's a very good leader. But on the pitch, like, you do need someone just to have a cooler head and to control the game. And then you have Aubameyang, who, let's face it, wants out of the club. That's not a good influence as a captain. And outside of that, then you don't really have anyone, like, you will have natural leaders there in, like, the next year or two, like Holding and Chambers. Depends on if they get on the pitch, of course. And then what else have you got for senior players? David Luiz and Mesut Ozil. They're not very good role models for young players. So fortunately, you have the likes of Mikel Arteta there to serve as that influence, if you like. So the likes of Saka and the likes of Willock and Maitland-Niles can, like, at least fall under that particular tree rather than listen to the fucking mercenary in the corner. But when you look at a player like Guendouzi, for example, and the way he acted on, basically, like, spurring on the Brighton team with his fucking shitty banter, like, that's the kind of culture you have at Arsenal. Heavy. His pockets are fucking heavy. Like, but hang on, like, he's probably I think someone made this point. Like, he's the lowest paid player at Arsenal in that team. He's got nothing to fucking brag about. And let's be face it, like, he's a bit part player in that team. As much as he's got promise and potential, he's not like a first 11 player. So he's got nothing to brag about, So in a way, like, from a Brighton point of view, you could see it was just with desserts that, like, he chats shit and Maupay scores. But of course, from an Arsenal point of view, it's the fucker that injured your keeper. So there's always two sides to the argument. Like, but like I said, like, a more sensible Arsenal team from the ground up, and we're going to touch on this in the Hand of Cod later on. Like, a more sensible team would not have shit the bed like that, even with an injured keeper. They would have just kept the goal, kept the level, and tried to get another one, rather than trying to sit back when they physically can't.
On that, we two of our players that have played 90 minutes for the 3 games that we've had this season. I know we haven't got onto the next match yet, but it's Bellerin and Mustafi are 2 of those, and Aubameyang.
Yeah.
But Bellerin is one that I would consider a leader. But at the minute, he's been asked to do kind of his jobs have been different in the matches that we've seen. So in that Brighton game, he had Pepe in front of him. Pepe, we all know, can't defend and isn't a defensive-minded player. So every time the ball got lost from Pepe, Bellerin had to double back. And what we had originally seen as big promise from Bellerin was, the fact that we could hit people on the break and that he had great recovery speed. But it's a kind of a well-known fact that after you do your ACL, speed is one of the things that has to come back to you, and it usually comes back quite slowly.
Yeah.
And he just doesn't have that recovery speed yet. Now, at the same time, coming into the match day 3 and 4, Bellerin's going to be tired. Bellerin is after being out for months and months and months, and he's a bit like, but we've no cover on that right-hand side. And what I found is that I think he would have been a better leader if he didn't have so many jobs to do, because he's he's covering back. He bombed forward a little bit in that Brighton game, but we saw then in the next game he really didn't bomb forward at all, which I suppose we'll come to it. But I do think one of the things that's been highlighted in these two matches against City and against Brighton is how weak our midfield is. Like, Brighton, it's like Mui, whatever his name is. He was absolute boss. He was just breaking up Ceballos, getting the ball and running mad through our midfield, and it just made it highlighted, like, that's Ramsey. We are missing Ramsey. Like, Ramsey wouldn't have lost the ball like Ceballos did there. And also he would have provided those through balls for Pepe really well, or Aubameyang on the other wing. Like, I think he's been a way bigger loss to the club than we possibly could have imagined, and possibly given credit to so far, because our midfield has looked decimated. We're looking at Xhaka as he can do the Ramsey role. He can't do the Ramsey role. And until we get someone in like Ramsey, we're not going to have any sort of cohesion between our defence and attack, which was a huge issue against Brighton.
Yeah, definitely. We'll touch again on Arsenal later on in the show. We have a few other games that did happen at the same time. One of them was West Ham Wolves, which is a 2-0 win to Wolves. Not much to say about this match. Wolves are just by far a better team. West Ham parked the bus and failed because they forgot to quantify what is the monstrous Adama Traore. One thing I would say about Wolves is that they, I think, are one of the better teams for their subs since the start, because what they've been doing is they have been keeping Traore off the pitch until the last half an hour. And holy shit, if you're like completely knackered and you're trying to defend and on comes him, you're fucked. You're just like, you just want to go home at that point, because you've just been run ragged by other players for 60 minutes, and now comes the fucking Lamborghini to start driving around. Oh, for fuck's sake. And it's worked. Like, they've won all their games so far, and it's because they've used the tactic. Like, it's perfect. Otherwise, then we have Bournemouth 0, Crystal Palace 2. I won't say much on Bournemouth because I am going to do what's called in the business a character assassination on them later on, and rightfully so. I think they are royally fucked. And losing to Roy Hodgson 2-0 at home pretty much confirms that. Although I will say about Roy Hodgson, lovely hair since the lockdown. He's got like a lovely little cotton candy malarkey going on there. He looks radiant, is what I'm saying. Lovely plumage for now, like himself. After that, then we have one of the more surprising results actually from this: Newcastle 3, Sheffield 0. A lot of it coming from the John Egan sending off, but Newcastle were decent. Like, and I'm shocked to even say that. Almiron, fucking Saint Maximan, they all look pretty fit. Joe Ellington scored a goal eventually. That was after he had been in on goal and tripped over his own feet before he could hit the shot, which was just 40 million well spent.
Absolutely. St. Maximin proving that dribbling in your back garden against your dog looks like it was actually a pretty fucking good thing.
Yeah, it's a good tactic, yeah. I mean, if you can beat something with 4 legs, you've got no chance against a 2-leg person, you know.
Absolutely.
That's how it works. Smart tactic. Fairly close match then between Aston Villa and Chelsea. Villa taking the lead initially, giving Chelsea a wee bit of a scare. But then Frank Lampard's Chelsea came back then from Pulisic and Giroud. I suppose they're 2 dreamboats in the team, but that's about it, really. To each their own, really, I guess. Yeah, no, you're right. There is only one dreamboat. I'm sorry. Apparently, Pulisic is a bit of a big deal in America. That's why I mentioned it. Malfunctioning technology also playing a part in this, in that match as well, with Villa taking the very unusual tactic of turning on the sprinklers. Did you see that?
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
The pitch sprinklers turned on the 4th minute and soaked Arrizabalaga.
Perfect. I love that there's like some guy like, in the sprinkler control rooms, like, wait for now.
What'd you do that? What'd you do that for? This is funny.
So
yeah, that's good. Other game then on that fixture was the Merseyside derby. which ended as a 0-0 draw. Pretty weak match, to be honest with you. It was a fairly rusty comeback from Liverpool. We didn't play Salah or Robertson. We were keeping them for the Palace game because we knew that was the more important game. Lads. But Everton were decent. Like, I'm not going to lie, they are a lot more cohesive than they were before the lockdown. Or at least like their kind of back four is. It's a very Ancelotti team now, you can tell. Like the midfield is kind of the way he wants it. Although we can tell he still doesn't quite have the personnel there. He's trying to get like the likes of Tom Davies and Sigurdsson to try to fit into square pegs, and it's not great. But he does have something with Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin, so that's good. You know, he's got a good partnership there.
They've also been matched with they've also been hit with like a huge amount of injuries as well.
Massive,
They played like an academy striker.
Yes, they played Anthony Gordon on the right flank, and he was okay. Like he's a typical kind of Evertonian youngster. Like he does good work, but there's not much there to kind of like sell on, if that makes sense. Like he'll play for Everton, and that's kind of it. Like Tom Davies, you know, he's not like marketable, let's say. But again, they produce players like that all the time. Like they're a very, very local club in that sense. But yeah, we for all intents and purposes should have lost this game, really, based on the performance, especially towards the end where we were tiring and Tom Davies was so fucking close to scoring. Like it just nicked off the post and out. Alisson was beaten, the defender was beaten. Again, kind of a coincidence that Matip went off around the same time and Lovren came on. Read into that what you will. But we got out there with a 0-0 draw, and it suited us then. So it was just kind of a case of like, let's not lose this match. Let's just kind of like just take the point and go. Like very, very respectful point from our point of view. But the game I wanted to talk about actually was the Man City game against Burnley, 5-0. Didn't watch all the match. I watched most of it. Mostly because like, again, I was hearing like I was kind of hoping beyond hope that Burnley would fuck them up. Didn't happen. Burnley were terrible. But the reason I'm talking about this match was that, like, we may have touched on it a few times over the few podcasts about Phil Foden. And there was just a part of me that just couldn't understand the hype around him, especially from people in Man City and particularly the England team. And, like, these were, like, at the times where, like, oh, Phil Foden will get a call up and all this stuff. And I just said, like, really? Like, you've got Jack Grealish here who's doing bits for Villa, and you've got this other player playing really good football somewhere else, and someone else, and someone else. And in my head, I was thinking, how on earth could you put Foden, who's had like a grand total of 5 minutes game time over the season, ahead of a Grealish or take your pick really from the number 10s, Maddison was what I was thinking of. And then I watched the match against Burnley, and I said, now I get it. Now I know why this guy is highly touted. He basically slotted in just where David's. What's that?
And like, wouldn't you be sicking for Grealish? He's like, okay, there's no good number 10s coming out of England right now. I'm going to jump ship from Ireland over to England and, you know, steal that spot for myself.
Yeah.
Oh shit, Phil Foden.
It's mad though, because it was the same with the strikers for years. They had fuck all strikers, and then suddenly Harry Kane, Rashford, Vardy, Calvert-Lewin all come out at Wilson, fucking Sturridge. They all come out of the woodwork at the same time, and you have to pick and choose them. Like it's mad. But yeah, I saw it in that game why Phil Foden is good, and he's gone up a lot of my estimation. Now, granted, the Burnley midfield were not there. I don't know where they were. I presume they're all getting medicals for fucking AC Milan, because apparently that's what they're all doing. But at least I could see, once he was given the space, he did shit with it, and like he's very. You can tell that David Silva's done some special training with him. You could tell they're doing like a one-on-one or something and learning from the master of that type of play, because like all that he was doing was pretty much what Silva would do if he was 20 years old again. And like if I really do hope that with Silva going, this puts Foden straight into the team. No messing, no fucking replacements that are costing them 70 million. Just put the lad in the team and let him work, because the team is designed well for him. You know, he plays well in the team. He's like indoctrinated with the Guardiola style at this rate. Just let him go, because he scored 2 goals and they're 2 fucking crackers as well. So like, you don't need any more evidence to prove that he's a good player now.
Well, he can't. I'm like, he's intelligent and he's very good on the ball. you know, he's got his decision making seems to be quite on point.
Yeah.
But like, I don't like, to be honest with you. Like, it's difficult to stress how poor Burnley were. Like,
that's true too.
They didn't have a single shot on target. They had one shot off target.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
that's because they were trying to hit the plane down.
Exactly. Yeah.
let's not talk about that.
Yeah, they'd one corner. You know,
Yeah.
so like, yeah. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like, Foden was great. He was very clearly the top performer in this match. And he does seem to go from strength to strength every time you watch him. But like, Burnley were fucking terrible.
Yeah, they were. And fortunately, they do kind of bounce back in the next match day. Fortunately for them, because, well, they are kind of still in the hunt for Europe, but they're not really, if that makes sense. They're kind of there. They're in the party, but not doing anything. They're kind of sitting in the corner drinking a fucking pint of gravy, you know? That's kind of what they're doing at the minute. So, yeah, as we're saying, match day 31 kicked off with a thrilling, and the Lord says thrilling, 0-0 draw between Leicester and Brighton. I couldn't tell you anything about this match. A top comment on the Sky Sports highlights was, well done to Sky Sports for getting 3 minutes highlight out of this match. Which really says a lot, considering the 0-0s we've had so far. Harry Kane stars, in giant quotation marks, in a 2-0 win for Spurs over West Ham. I saw bits of this match. Harry Kane was not starring. He was exhausted after 5 minutes. And I still don't understand.
Kane was a selfish prick in this match against West Ham.
Shocked to hear that.
There were so many chances where he took a fluff shot because the ball came to him and he panicked. And he was being like, but the commentator's like, oh, that was an excellent chance by Harry Kane. It's like, would have been excellent if he'd actually hit the ball properly and didn't panic like a fucking child getting past the ball for the first time.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how he still manages to panic on the ball. I was like, what?
This is your job. This is what you're meant to be good at.
Like, you're meant to do this every day for a living. Stop being afraid of it.
Yeah, exactly. Kick the ball into the goal. I don't know why we have to keep this so basic, but here we are. But yeah, that's 2 losses now for West Ham in a row, and 2 pretty comprehensive losses. They haven't had much going in both matches. They are very much in that scrap, especially considering that you could feasibly say Watford will get out of it. You know, they are playing better football. Villa, you can argue, are at least trying, but just the quality isn't there. So it's really a toss-up between three teams now, isn't it? It's between Villa, Bournemouth, and West Ham to see who's the least worst.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, after this match, I'd say that West Ham are really in the shit.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the defence. I mean, Kane was smoking them for pace. The way he was just walking through the offside trap and just going, what the fuck?
Yeah,
and,
it's bad.
It's really bad. When he's outpacing you, you're slow.
Yeah, I was about to make that point. If it's Harry Kane, who is still, you can still see he's just not fit. He really isn't. Even the way he walks.
That's like being betting a race with Per Mertesacker.
Yeah, precisely. That's just it's not a fair fight for anyone involved. It's not fair for having this tree running, and then it's not fair for the defenders being that slow. That's just that's unfair on both counts. Yeah, exactly. So we have a few 1-0 wins then. Everton beating Norwich 1-0.
Although I go back to that Spurs game, just a quick one. Congratulations on Endon Belly being taking up Luke Shaw's mantle as Jose's new
boy.
Bus parker, guy under the bus person.
Bus dumper.
Yes.
Oh.
The bullet shield.
Isn't it amazing that Jose just seems to hone in on one player in the squad he doesn't like? I think he decides it by lottery. Honestly,
and he properly hangs him out the fucking dry,
Yeah, well, that's not really fucking news at this rate, is it? I mean, he's fucking stuck with him because Spurs aren't signing anybody for the next 5 years.
No, they ain't signing anybody.
No. it's mad, really. Yeah, so as I was saying, Everton beat Norwich 1-0 to confirm that Norwich are indeed fucked, and they will still remain to be fucked now that they're in the FA Cup as well as of tonight. Bournemouth, I would also consider fucked. They lost to Wolves 1-0. Again, Jimenez and Traore doing the bits for them. Newcastle and Aston Villa with a 1-1 draw. Newcastle took the lead, and I had to laugh at this because Dwight Gale scored the goal, and he came on as a sub to replace Joelinton, right? And he was only on the pitch for like 2 minutes, and he scored a goal. And I've never seen someone so disgusted to score in my life. Like he was sassy. Like it practically, he just scored. He like drills it home, nice tidy finish, and then like he just keeps like fucking mounting off. You can hear him going like fucking. He's like Muttley, just fucking mumbling around the place, and everyone's just going like, "Is he angry that Joelinton is ahead of him in the pecking order?" Oh yeah, of course he is. like he's just matched Joelinton for Premier League goals, and he's only been on the pitch 2 minutes. You know, that's you can see where he's coming from. Like, but yeah, Villa eventually got back because of a fuck up on Dubravka, just chalk it up to all the other goalkeeping errors that's been happening lately. So at least Villa got a point. That's something. At least they've got 2 points. They are slightly better than what they were, but considering that they could have like beat Sheffield with a game in hand, they did rattle Chelsea a little bit. Like 2 points isn't really good enough for them, and it's kind of looking like I checked the rest of their fixtures. They've all got pretty tough run-ins. Villa has to play Liverpool. Bournemouth have to play like most of the top 6. West Ham have to play most of the top 6 as well, bar ourselves. And curiously enough, the last match of the season features Bournemouth versus Aston Villa. And
oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's gonna be fucking winner takes all, I think. Winner gets their team not to be fucking liquidated, I would say. So that'll be interesting. Next up then was Anthony Martial 3, Sheffield United 0. And again, a good performance from Man United, but a very abject one from Sheffield. Like it was very much like the Man City Burnley game. It was just like one team were really, really good, and one team was really, really bad. You know, and that says a lot. It's kind of shocking to say that about Sheffield because they've been one of the best performers before the lockdown.
But they haven't. I don't think they've like adjusted to after lockdown.
Like, they've pre-fall.
Yeah. It's a pity as well because had there not been the lockdown, you could feasibly say they could have challenged for the Europa League. And
oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. Sheffield United are the type of team that Manchester United would have been really struggling against.
Yeah,
you know, the exact kind of side that Manchester had struggled against so far this season. You don't even have to go to any other season. So to see how much of a fucking free fall they're in post the restart was it was terrible. Like you know? And what I quite liked, the only thing I will say was that Ole really rubbed it in by waiting until the 80th minute when Sheffield were 3-0 down and pretty much just had given up. They just wanted to go home before making all 5 subs.
I love that. Just tip. I pull that shit in Football Manager and it always worked. Never
first
failed.
Ever quintuple substitution, and he does it in the 80th minute. When he's 3-0 up. I'm going, let's change half the outfield players. Are you fucking idiots, mate?
They should have done that thing where they were supposed to have entrance teams for the players. This is like one of the rejected ideas from the Premier League to basically give like players a mental edge coming on. You know, like a motivational boost to like put up with the fact that they're now 2 stone heavier than they used to be. And I just would have loved the idea of them kind of coming out like a fucking Survivor Series team. And now representing Ted DiBiase is Phil Jones, Matteo Darmian, and all their fucking like team songs are playing in the background, like, and fucking like just Gorilla Monsoon just letting them, Howard Finkel just letting them fucking on, like, you know, with big microphone down the bottom. You know, the lockdown could have been a lot easier, is what I'm trying to say. Like, they could have made a show of it, but they didn't. You know.
Can I just jump in with Fernandez for Manchester United? Some fucking signing they made. He has made
brilliant. It's been brilliant.
Yeah.
I watched the first half of this match and he was just dancing around the Sheffield United midfield, and it made me quite sad that he doesn't play for Arsenal. So yeah. There. That's
No,
the only
I totally agree with you. Like the way I'd say that is like Bruno Fernandes is to Man United is what Van Dijk was to us. Like it is a player that they have been desperately missing for so long because Pogba wasn't filling that role really. Anyone else who were kind of getting in just wasn't. It was close to it, but not like Fred. That's what I was thinking of. Fred was supposed to fill that role, didn't quite do it. But now Bruno is smack bang in the middle of both. And he's made both of them play, making them play so much better. And now because you have such natural width in the team again, like the team looks really, really good now because all he was a missing piece of the puzzle. Now all of it makes sense and the player and the team is so much more harmonious. If United were able to get like a fairly decent striker in the summer, then that team, you could argue, are going places. You know, you could say like they're targeting top 4 or title again next season. And they could still do with like, you know, not mugs in defence, but again, that's for next season to decide, I guess. But at least like having Bruno there is a step in the right direction. You can feasibly say now
there's a huge leap in the right direction. Yeah,
definitely. So then moving on then to the matches we're going to talk about. First off, myself talking about our 4-0 win against Crystal Palace. A very symbolic match, fair to say, considering that like Palace have typically been the ones to rain on our parade. Whether it's been in the fucking FA Cup with Alan Pardew in like the tightest shorts humanly possible, or as other fans have christened it, Christanbul a couple of years ago, where we surrendered a 3-0 lead and had made Luis Suarez cry, which I'm sure every impartial fan loved to see, and I can totally understand that. Just to be able to see us just wipe these guys away, not only because it was Crystal Palace and also Roy Hodgson. You know, it was like an exorcism. You know, it was like we had finally like taken the fucking holy water, splashed it on Ray Lewington's face. He vomited everywhere, and then suddenly we're Premier League champions. Like, it's a miracle. But no word of a lie, like this is one of our best performances of the season, which says a lot. Like Palace were terrible. Don't get me wrong.
Do you think Klopp might have bollocked you after the Everton match? Because that was quite abject for a Liverpool performance. And then it was just like switch up the gears, or we'll be the laughing stock for throwing away this lead.
That's exactly what it felt like. It felt like, granted, having Salah back in now helped a good bit, and having Robertson there, because our main issue was that we had no like threat down the left flank in the Everton game, and I was considering that was a game where they were playing a 19-year-old Gordon and like Coleman. So Coleman was basically doing the work of two men there. So if we had put Robertson and Salah into that game, we would have actually given Everton a threat. But because we were working with Milner, who went off, and then Minamino, it just wasn't there. At Crystal Palace, this was us at full beans, and we just blew them away. Salah goal was gorgeous. Actually, no, Fabinho was gorgeous through the entire game. Like, he didn't have a great season because of the ankle injury, and he just generally looked like he was struggling for fitness. Lockdown happens, he's fully healed up, and as you can see, like, he just floats over one of his fucking passes that he seems to do every single time he's on the ball, which is an over the top pass over the defensive line. Salah lands onto it and he slots it home. And then Fabinho himself, do you know what, the goal scoring thing sounds like a lot of fun. I'm going to do it too. And then just hits one from 30 yards, as you fucking do. So I purred over that goal in particular. So yes, if anything, it was a comprehensive result, but just for the degree of relief involved in it, because in an alternate timeline, we would have fucked that game up, and then we would doing this podcast going, are Liverpool bottling it? Yes, they fucking are, because they just lost to Crystal fucking Palace and Roy Hodgson. Thankfully, it didn't happen, and the best case scenario happened then a day later, which we'll get to shortly. The other game then on my list is Arsenal 2, Southampton 0. Burkbot, I believe this is your shout, and tell us how Arsenal got back on track.
So yeah, this is a Southampton away. We're never quite comfortable. For some reason, Arsenal. Well, I completely understand it. Like being intimidated by Shane Long, is quite, I can
We all
understand that.
We all are. Yeah.
He's a beautiful man. Sorry. So yeah. No, we had a bit of a different formation again. Nketiah brought back on, and he did a fantastic job. His role was to kind of disrupt the Southampton's pass out from the back, and how that worked out was fantastic because he caused a phenomenal goalkeeping error, which I'm not going to talk too much about because I know Neil will probably want to jump in on that. And just, one of these poacher goals, it wasn't kind of sleek or, anything particularly, fancy about it. It's not like Arsenal trying to walk the ball in. No, this was like fucking, scrappy as you get. Our second goal came from a free kick. Absolutely woeful attempt at a challenge on Aubameyang. I was actually quite annoyed with this because the referee blew up even though he was true on goal. Which, I think had play continued, he would have scored anyway. But the referee brought it back, sent the player off, and gave us a free kick outside the box, which was terribly taken by Lacazette. He gets a second shot, gets a decent, put his boots through it, or put his laces through it, and Willock got the follow-up, which is nice to see that we have 2 academy players on the score sheet for the first time in ages. As the only scorers, we've got Nketiah then and Willock. As far as tactics go, I found this was quite a similar game tactics-wise as the Brighton match had started out. But what we had was Saka was kind of, in the Brighton game, we kind of played this roving reporter, kind of running around, kind of picking up where it needed, where it wasn't quite structured. Whereas in this game, he was very much focused out on the left, with Tierney on the left of a back three. And I think this worked well tactics wise. We had no kind of early injuries to try and contend with for the first time since the end of lockdown. Arteta was able to make his substitutions kind of as he had planned to, I suppose. The only one possibly being enforced was Tierney, but I'm not entirely sure he would have made it to the end of the game anyway because he's only coming back from his long-term injury.
He seemed to be going down with cramp.
Yeah.
When he was started limping around, I was like, oh my fucking God, no. But
then
it just seemed, when you saw how he was reacting to whatever pain he had, I was like, oh, he's still got fucking cramp.
Yeah. It's understandable as well. He's Scottish and that heat, it was 32 degrees. Poor man, never seen that heat. Those high numbers, unless you look at Fahrenheit.
I'd say he put on an extra half stone with all the factor 50 on him.
Yeah. Weighing him down like it was, couldn't sweat through it.
Slippery.
Yeah.
Kind of a highlight for me is Emi Martinez. This was kind of like his first kind of chance to make a mark for himself as the Arsenal keeper, and I think he did really well. He had there was 2 good saves he had to make, one of them being from Schlong, who cut through Mustafi like he was there, which nothing new for Mustafi, but it was a good save by Martinez. Ended up kind of point blank kind of save like we'd mentioned earlier, but then smothering the follow-up. It was a good match. I'm not going to go over the fucking top saying, oh, we're back in business, boys. No, we're still a very young side that is going to have to do something with the midfield. Ceballos played nearly the whole match again, and how he's getting that much game time, it's because of lack of options. But
there's no one else. There's nobody fucking else.
And then I can't believe I'm saying this, but Holding got man of the match. I think the VT man of the match. And he was very good. Cleared everything that came near him. Had a huge 96 or 98% successful pass rate. But my man of the match, and I can't believe I'm saying this, was Granit Xhaka. I found that he just did the work that I suppose his job that he was probably bought in to do, which is clean up, spread the ball, play, do not get involved.
In the midfield,
kind of Xhaka can't dribble. he can't do that kind of creative midfield role, but he can be the kind of midfield enforcer kind of a thing. And I think he did that very well. And I think we missed him in the other two matches that he obviously he left in the first few minutes of the City match, and then he was out then for the Brighton match. But I think having him back actually settled us a good bit. There was not too much panic whenever we'd lose possession and get caught on a break. So it was good. No, it was the happiest I've been with our sub performance in like 4 months. So what, that's only a good thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think the thing is that it was a more calming, asserted performance, and not just because Southampton didn't push us. They did. But like we were saying there that Martinez had to make 2 good saves. But like they're saves that you would expect a professional goalkeeper to make. Like had he not made those saves and they'd gone in, I'd be like, that's a fucking howler. Like they weren't wonderful fucking saves. But I think the calming influence of Holding, who I think deserved the man of the match, he made 7 clearances. He had the highest passing percentage on the team. But yeah, Xhaka anchored the midfield, made it very tough for Southampton to try and get through. And yeah, he just left. The two of them just spread this calm throughout the whole defensive unit of the team. Which
when was the last time we could say that?
Yeah, no, it's been
that's true.
A fucking while. But it is also still very clear that we don't really have much of a midfield.
Yeah, that's still the case. So yeah, fair enough.
Just a quick note there, Bellerin has been getting a lot of stick for his performance in this game, but like
it was woeful.
Like, people kind of jumping on like, oh, he's done. Like, no, this is his third 90-minute match in 3 days, or not 3 days, in like 8 days after however long he's been out. And look, coming back from an ACL injury is one of the toughest injuries to come back from. And if he needs that extra time, give it to him, because he's a leader on the pitch there. And again, he had Pepe on his wing and he had to do that kind of extra double job of defending. So I just want to kind of put it out there that like he has been getting some criticism and some flack, but I would I'd still persevere and wait for him to come good again, because he's going to come good again.
Yeah, it'll happen. Like as you said, ACLs take a long time. Like we know ourselves from Ox, when he ripped his ACL a year or 2 ago against Roma, we didn't use him until about a year. And the reason we did was like he was months ahead of his recovery. But the point was that like the reason we needed him was his brutality when he's playing. Like he's so physical and so like he charges forward. There's no point playing Ox if you're not going to be able to use him like a fucking ox. So it said, okay, we'll let him keep training, keep getting the speed up, and it was all about the performance. Obviously Arsenal don't really have that luxury in that you kind of do need to play Bellerin because Cedric is still injured. And you don't really have a natural right back to kind of fit in, or at least a player that you couldn't arguably say is first team quality. So you're kind of hamstrung in that sense. So yeah, like it does take a long time, especially because Bellerin's like best attribute, you would say, is his speed, is his agility to bomb up the pitch. I suppose like once you do have when you do have him at full speed, ironically. Him and Saka on those flanks, again, if you do stick with this kind of back 3 setup, like that team is going to look pretty impressive going forward. It's just getting that central midfield working. And
imagine we had Fernandes in that central midfield, like that would have just been. Oof.
Yeah, that's the type of player you need to be chasing, but they're very few and far between. And ultimately, like people are wise to that now. So that's why you have to pay 6. That's why we had to play 50 million to Keita, and we're not even really using them that much. Which says a lot really about the likes of like buying Wijnaldum for the money we did at the time, because those players now are like fucking gold dust. It's gas really how it works out. Even look at the likes of Neves and fucking Moutinho for Wolves. Like they're deep line playmakers, and they got them for pittance. So it like some teams are behind the curve in that sense, and Arsenal kind of are, because they are trying to like make something out of Guendouzi and make something out of Willock, when like you have to pay like 50, 60 odd for a player like Bruno Fernandes, and there's only really one of him around. So you kind of had to concede defeat on that one. So the other match that happened in that match day was Burnley 1, Watford 0. There's not much to say about that one, really. Watford lost, and Nigel Pearson was very angry, which is doubly worse now considering he seems to have spent his lockdown working out because his arms are fucking massive now. So best not to. Maybe that's how they survive. Is basically he gets I have to say, Burpo, your technique is terrible. You do not go jackhammer. That is not the way to do it. And you're doing downwards. Like what's the downwards there? Like that's horrible. Anyway, but yeah, like maybe that's the way their tactic of staying up is basically Nigel like intimidates people into like submission. It's just like, we're gonna win, or I'm gonna get mad. I was like, yeah, no, go 3-0. Yeah, absolutely, just fucking go. Jesus, I know what you did to those dogs. Not in a sexual sense, obviously. So the last match on the match day then was a pretty fucking significant one, lads. It was Chelsea 2, Man City 1. Frank Lampard's Chelsea won us the Premier League. That's a fucking sentence. Again, there was some sort of like remarkable twinge of irony that it was Christian Pulisic who was like Klopp's little baby at Dortmund, and Willian, a player that Chelsea sniped off us 7 years ago, that scored the goals to win us the league. There's something just really harmonious about that. There's some sort of like weird karma about that, but it was a really bad performance by City. No word of a lie there. Chelsea were just good.
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking at them playing, going, where was this defense, particularly for Pulisic's goal?
Oh my God! What the fuck happened there?
Which was
Mendy.
Mendy.
Gundogan.
Mendy looked at David Luiz's performance and went, I bet you I could do that and not get sent off.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happens.
And then Fernandinho went, oh, hold my beer, mate. I bet you I can do something worse than what Luiz did and get sent off. So, like, I was just looking at this performance going, what the absolute fuck? Who is this? This can't be the same team that played us. I genuinely, honestly, if the big reveal at the end of that match was that it wasn't actually City that Chelsea were playing, it was in fact Arsenal in a City strip, I'd have been like, fucking minute.
I recognise that bob of hair anywhere.
Yeah, so it was crazy. Like,
yeah, it was crazy.
I will say I was watching this with Nordy, and I didn't tell him what any of the implications were if City were to win or whatever.
Yeah, we should tell the people that Nordy is a massive jinx when it comes to football. So if you get him to watch something and say what happens, the opposite will happen. That's why you don't have him in the room for Arsenal games, like, because he is a colossal jinx.
He did his 2 matches. He was there for Brighton and he was there for City. He's not allowed to come to my own football matches. He has to sit in the car park. And that's not even a joke. Like, that's the thing. Like, my dad came to a final that I was at and was texting him, okay, there's 2 minutes left in the game. They're 3 points up. Come on out. And then as James got out of the car, we conceded a goal, which put us level. And he's like, get back in the fucking car.
It's so funny. Yeah, as you're saying.
So he was watching this, and I was like, he obviously got from the commentators' cues what was going on. He was like, oh, Johnson's not going to be happy I'm watching this. And I was just like, oh, no, this will make it even better. Like, he'll enjoy beating City to win it, like, next week. And he was like, oh, okay, well, if that's still the case, then I don't mind. But yeah, no, he was just like, what the hell is going on? He just handballed it. Like, I know, there was a clearance off the line by Walker, which he was like, oh my God, well done, Kyle Walker. He's like, no, you're not I'd like him. He's like, okay, shit, Kyle Walker. No, but like the handball, then he kind of went on a tirade about like, why do footballers do this? You know, because he brought him flashbacks to Thierry Henry doing this to us. But no, it was absolutely like hilarious to watch with someone who was neutral to the point where like they didn't know who the players were. did not anything because there were so many chances, so many errors. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't necessarily like fantastic football play that was getting us like excited. It was, oh shit, that's a terrible pass back. Oh look, he's latched onto it. Oh my god, it's cleared off the line. Ah! Clusterfuck of fun.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately it meant Liverpool won. But like it was a good match in the end.
Yeah, it was gas. Like it was like I was doing something at the time, so I didn't actually watch the match, and I was kind of glad I didn't because I would have had a nervous breakdown if I did. It hasn't really sunk in. I'm not gonna lie. If I don't think it's gonna sink in until I see them actually lifting the trophy, because it's that sort of weird distance where like, yeah, I know we've won, yeah, I know I got it, like, and then there's still like a part of your head like, no, listen to what you're saying. You've never seen this in your life. You've never seen Liverpool as Premier League champions. This is like what happened to Leicester, practically, because they've never seen this happen to their team. We've never seen this. I've never seen this happen to Liverpool, that they're actually Premier League champions. Champions League winners, fine. I've got two on my lifetime, easy. That's a handy one. But like, for so many people, this means so much, and like it's very hard to relate to Arsenal fans, I know, but like, because you've had the invincible seasons and you've had a run very similar to ours, in fairness, and like obviously the Invincibles ones it still holds on and our ones hasn't. But like at this point, like I don't fucking care. Like we've won it. We've won the Premier League. Like it doesn't matter if you won it by 23 points or 1 point. We've done it. That's the whole point. And the sheer fact that like we've had so many terrible teams over the last 30 years. You know, like you look back at fucking what Roy Hodgson did with his time, and granted, God love him, he was a stooge. Like he was left for dead with fucking Hicks and Gillette, and they used him as an excuse to buy complete trash. But even before then, Liverpool always had like a fun team. They had like a Michael Owen or Steve McManaman or whatever it was. And it just wasn't enough to challenge for leagues, because you had grown-ups like Man United and Arsenal and at the time Blackburn who knew what the fuck they were doing and challenging for titles. And Liverpool were going like, oh, look, they're cute. Look at them fighting with Newcastle for a league position. No, that's cute. Look at them. And then suddenly shit kicks off then. And you get like Gerard Houllier winning trophies left, right and centre. And it's nearly there. No, gone again. Then Rafa comes in, Champions League win, second. Not good enough. And that was one of our best teams ever. We had a midfield of Xabi Alonso, Mascherano, and Gerrard. That's insane to have those three class fucking players in the one team, and Torres as the main striker. That's nuts. Still wasn't good enough. Then you have Brendan Rodgers, which in the grand scheme of things is a freak accident, because he just managed to like, all his job was to get Suarez, Sturridge, and Sterling all on the same team sheet. That was his job. And he did it. Simple as. And his magic, and somehow he was able to get a tune out of Skirtle and Agger, who I still love, but they're terrible fucking defenders. Like they're not going to be Premier League winners. And then suddenly Jurgen Klopp comes in, and like I think someone, I don't know who had said it, it just seemed like a natural fit, and they are a natural fit. Like it's like Liverpool is the closest club to a Borussia Dortmund in terms of like the team spirit and the way the club functions, practically. So it was such a natural fit for Klopp to come in, and he just treated it as the same thing. He just bought players that suited the system. But if anything, they're doing it better than Dortmund did, because Dortmund are still a selling club. They're still the second team in Germany for a lot of people. For Liverpool now, you could feasibly say number one, because they're treating themselves as number one. You know, like obviously Manchester City on paper has the best squad, and they have probably the biggest money. But Liverpool have a vein of excellence throughout the team. And that's been proven because we've gone pretty much, like, with one exception, throughout the entire, we've beaten every other team in the league. We're 23 points ahead of our nearest rival, who we get to play next, and they have to give us a guard of honour. If they had won against Chelsea, if we beat them at their fucking home turf, we would have won the league. That's absurd. Like, no matter how many probabilities we would have had as Liverpool fans, we would have never have thought that's how we were going to win the league, to utter domination. Because every Liverpool fan is a nervous wreck when it comes to this shit. We don't, like, our club doesn't do these things easy. When we're winning Champions League finals because we're, like, fighting from 3-0 down, or we're having a horrible match against Spurs. Like, that, like, and it's just a close game then after that. we never win anything by pure dominance. So it's such a weird feeling to have aced it, to have done it so well, you know, and that's kind of why I think it hasn't sunk in, because it doesn't feel like a Liverpool victory. It feels like a victory for like a Man United or a Chelsea, just utter dominance. You know, like it's just their year and they've won it and it's done. You know, so in a way it shows you how far we've come, because we've looked at like a Sir Alex team or a Jose Mourinho team and said, fuck, why can't we just have grown-ups like that winning fucking league titles rather than fucking about with Joe Cole? Those days are gone now. We're the grown-ups. We're the teams that everyone's looking to go like, okay, what are they doing that we're not? How can we get past them? And that's the exciting part, because now we're going to have to do it all again next year and try and defend the title, which we've never done before. We don't know. We could fuck it up next season, or we could do the same thing. Nobody knows. That's the exciting part. Now we're champions. We are the gold standards. And who fucking knows what's going to happen? Like, there's going to be teams like buying players left, right, and centre just to try and keep up with us now. And that's absurd to think, considering the fucking amazing business we've done. This is, now, I would agree with you. I would like to think.
I can't probably be this happy. I have to have
something to knock down. It feels weird to me being this happy as well. Like it's an inner, like a serenity about it. It's like,
I do feel like this has been one of the weakest years of Premier League football in terms of, like, you've got the likes of Sheffield United challenging for Europe. You've got Burnley up there. And I know it's going to sound like I'm taking away from your victory because I'm trying to, but this is like, this is a very weak, you're the best of a weak bunch. Like, and you're very much the best. You can't deny that you're the best of a week, but it is. You've got Chelsea, who at the start of the season looked absolutely shot. Man United, who have been so topsy-turvy with Ollie. Pep, I suppose, and his Man City team is probably the only ones that you were realistically... I can't remember what our predictions were at the start. I think I had City to win it.
Same here, I think, yeah.
I think I did too. Chelsea won it.
Oh, you did too.
Oh,
yeah, you did.
I think so.
But like, like our predictions in that case just kind of fell flat. But like, there's been no big upsets. There's been no, like, the upsets being that everyone's been so shit.
Yeah.
And like, it's easy to, when you have your shit together and you've got kind of good, you've got good buys coming into your team, like Minamino coming in, you've made good purchases for the squad. When you're being managed well and you're buying players that make sense, yes, all of that is going to work out in your favour when everyone else is a shitstorm of mediocrity and fucking brown envelopes under the table.
Yeah, that's the difference. Like, we do feel like, and that's my kind of my point. Like, we're the only grown-ups in this league now. You can even look at Man City and say, like, you know, Vincent Kompany, the guy that won you the title last year. Have you tried replacing him? No. What about the billions you have in the bank balance? Have you not tried signing a Harry Maguire or Koulibaly? No, you're just going to roll with John Stones? Okay, you fucking roll with John Stones then. See how well that turns out.
And
Otamendi. Like, how does a team with that much bank balance still roll with centre-backs who, let's face it, couldn't go into a fucking League Two side half the time? You know, like, that's...
They're so heavily dependent on Laporte.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and they suffered for it because he was out for the entire season. But yeah, your point is very valid in that sense. And I do hope, like, again, because now we're the top side, we will behave like that. You know, we will, like, go out and, like, not overhaul the squad. We'll do the 1 and 2 replacements. We'll probably replace Shaqiri. We'll probably replace Lallana, and that'll be it, really. You know, I don't think we're going to tear apart the team, not yet anyway, because everyone's kind of like, they're in a nice kind of like age bracket now at the moment. So like the front three will be like the quickest to go old, and then they might be sold on, or someone will come in for an offer, and we'll have someone ready to go to replace them. You know, that's why they're already talking about the likes of Sancho and Mbappe and all these crazy names that, like, 6 months ago, we would have said, we're not fucking signing Mbappe. Like, he's like fucking worth 300 million. We're not going to spend that much money on him. We're not going to sign Sancho. He's like 100 million. You know, who fucking knows at this point? Like, you know, Champions of England opens up a lot of doors, you know? Especially with the Nike money coming in. So like I said, I do hope we treat ourselves as champions and fucking spread the wealth. Like, get money into the squad, invest into the youth team, give a fucking chunk load to the women's team, get them back up to where they should be. Because again, we're Premier League champions now. Let's start fucking acting like it. You know, look, we're the team to beat. Let's be the team to beat everywhere, because that's the way Liverpool should be. You know, so yeah. In terms of the Premier League table, obviously Liverpool are kind of have settled that in some regard. But I suppose the most interesting battle is still the top four. Man City are well ahead, goes without saying. Leicester, on the other hand, now Leicester have got dragged into this fight. They're on 55 on third place. Chelsea are on 54. Wolves played today and they beat Villa 1-0. We'll talk about them in the next rundown. So they're currently fifth on 52. So Man United are currently sixth on 49, and Spurs overtaking Sheffield and Arsenal. They're in seventh, and then top 10 ends as Sheffield, Arsenal, and Crystal Palace. So, like, realistically, you could say like the battle is still between Wolves, United, and Spurs, because Arsenal have lost and Arsenal have ground at that point. So you'd have to be winning your next 7 games to really be in contention. Still could do.
When you look at what our next 7 games are, that's just not going to happen.
No. Intriguingly enough, your next game is against Leicester, so that we should see how that goes. So, but then Leicester have been pretty poor, so you never know.
Don't get me wrong. We never know, but like we've got Leicester, we have Sheffield, don't we?
Yes, in the FA Cup.
Oh no, we've Sheffield tomorrow in the FA Cup. Hang on.
Oh, you play them again, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we play them. Hang on, I'm just going to pull them up. Hang on. Right. So sorry, apologies. So we've Sheffield in the FA Cup tomorrow. Then Wednesday we've got Norwich. Right. So we should win that.
That'd be fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. But after that, then we've Wolves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Wolves, Leicester. Then it's the North London derby. And then after the North London derby, we have what will hopefully be a still hungover Liverpool.
Shit, yeah, we still have to play you guys. Fuck.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
At home. Then after cider stinking Liverpool, hopefully, we have Villa. Then our final league game of the season is at home to Watford.
Yes, that's
not a good run.
We're going to be playing Wolves, who are the good ones, next.
Yes.
Or like Norwich. Yeah.
Yeah, and at the very end, we're playing Watford, who aren't the good ones.
But may be fighting relegation, so they will have something to fight for.
They're going to be going for that.
Yeah.
Yes, they will. They will.
I mean, out of all of those, we've only 2 teams that really don't have anything to play for, and that's Norwich, because they're pretty much anchored to the bottom of the table, and Liverpool, because you've already won it, and hopefully by that point hopefully your match warm up will be Ollie is taking like drinking Jägermeister out of the fucking trophy. Yeah.
It will all, you, like the guard of honor won't even be that. You'll be clapping away and we're just going, shh, stop.
everybody arriving in like, even though the match is taking place at like 8:00, everybody shows up in like dark sunglasses.
Turn off the fucking floodlights, lads, please. This is unfair.
Don't worry, we'll play at the dark. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
can somebody please shut the crowd up? Can you please lower the crowd down?
Can someone please tape Firmino's mouth? It's too bright. Somebody please stop. It's too much. So yeah, the rest of
you want to sit there?
Hendo, you're not looking well, man. It's just gonna be Milner. It's just gonna be Milner playing against Arsenal. Like he's the only one that doesn't drink in the team. Like he's going like, oh, that's why I played me right being it. Gonna run 15k against Arsenal. No problem, lads.
So, with a propped up Alisson in goal.
Yeah, exactly. Cardboard cutout of Alisson, or Andy Lonergan, as he's called. So we're making him a Premier League champion. What the Anyway, so Burnley top up the second half of the table. Everton are still 12th, but they've closed the gap then to you guys. They're closest. They're 4 points away from seventh. Like, they could get Europa League football somehow. Emphasis on fucking somehow, considering. Newcastle still 13th, but they're like well comfortable. They're just gonna try and pick up money for the Saudis coming in, I guess. Southampton the same. They're 14th. Brighton, you could feasibly say, are safe from the relegation scrap with the win against Brighton, or win against Arsenal, Jamie. And then this is the fun part. Watford on 28. We still have 3 teams on 27, which is West Ham, Bournemouth, and Aston Villa, all separated with goal difference. And then Norwich, as Neil said, anchored to the bottom, 6 points away. So it's getting pretty close, lads. It could be fucking anyone at this point, because like 3 of those, like 2 of those teams, you could say are fucked, but like 1 win gets them out of trouble for now at least. And like I said, it could be anyone's game at that point. So yeah, it should be fun. I do actually have, just to start us off as always, I do have a round of Transfer Guff. So, again, if you're not acquainted with the round, I have picked 2 transfer stories that I have found on the internet that I think are from reputable sources and have some vein of truth to them. And I've mixed one in with a fake story I took from my FIFA save file. And I took to my 2 colleagues here to figure out the fake from the real. I use in giant quotation marks. So, this week, lads, all of these stories come from the Daily Mirror, as we all know, is a very, very reputable source of transfer news. So feast your eyes and ears on these stories. Our top story today obviously comes from the Daily Mirror, and they're talking about Shane Duffy. Okay, so he thinks, he in particular is John Cross, the main correspondent for Daily Mirror, and he thinks that Shane Duffy is going to be subject of a pretty massive transfer bid from Celtic. Okay, now the idea is that basically Shane Duffy will be enticed to go to Celtic because of Champions League football. Now obviously Celtic are kind of short on funds really, because Duffy's been quoted at quite a high price. So what they're thinking of doing is offering some of their star players in return to Brighton, which would be their main striker Odds-on Edouard or their star midfielder Oliver Incham, to basically sweeten the deal. So essentially that story is Shane Duffy going to Celtic and Edouard and Incham going the opposite way. Okay, so our second story involves Arsenal, would you believe? Again, from the Daily Mirror, and John Cross again this time. And he's reporting that the coronavirus pandemic apparently ruined Arsenal's offer they had for Willian from Chelsea. So Willian, again, potentially more than likely out of contract at the end of the season, and Arsenal were going to be first in with a pretty massive amount of money. The report claims that they were going to offer Willian $250,000 a week for 2 years. That was the offer that Arsenal were supposedly going to offer. So that, again, that's Arsenal to Willian, or Willian to Arsenal rather. Although considering the amount of money, you could argue it's the other way around. The last story then comes from Daily Mirror's rumour mill, and it involves Joe Hart. Now, Joe Hart, as we know, has been let go by Burnley, and not a lot of teams are biting for him, to be honest. But one team that could be biting for him is his former club, and in fact his first club, Shrewsbury Town. Now, it has been described as a very ambitious offer from the League One side, but they're trying to take advantage of the pretty massive income they got from the FA Cup draw with Liverpool, and they're thinking they can use that money to basically entice Joe Hart into the club and maybe offer him a coaching role. That hasn't said in the report, but I assume that could be part of the deal. So that story is Joe Hart to Shrewsbury Town. So as a summary, the other 2 stories are Shane Duffy to Celtic, with Edouard and Incham going the opposite way, or Willian to Arsenal. So my 2 colleagues, what do you think is the fake story?
Well, I think they're all coated in bullshit. But I can see Shane Duffy is a good and a wanted player and highly rated, If you've got two kind of good players in return for one, like, he's old enough not to have too many years left in him.
Mm-hmm.
Why would Celtic get rid of two good players for him? I can't see it.
Okay.
The Willian and excruciatingly high wages, that sounds like Arsenal, in all fairness. Like an old player who's like at the end of his career, let's give him more money than our star players and the youth squad. That does sound like us. And then Joe Hart, like, you know, if it's his boyhood club, like, they're probably the only people who have enough sentiment left to take him. And maybe they can get a deal with Head and Shoulders. I'm going to go Celtic.
Actually. Okay, you're going to go for Shane Duffy to Celtic. Fair enough. Yeah, good reasoning, actually. I like how you've really dug into that to see which one could be the fake story. You'll be kicking yourself if you get it wrong. Neil, how about yourself? What's your good instinct here?
My gut instinct is fucking... You see, William's been linked with us for fucking ages.
Mm.
You know, like... Actually, we actually spoke about this on a previous podcast.
We did, didn't we?
William have been linked with us.
Mm.
So, fuck it. I can remember Duffy. Fuck it. I'll go with the Joe Hart one. Because I can remember Shane Duffy stating that he would have loved to have gone to Celtic, or that he would love to go to Celtic.
Okay, so you think the fake story is Joe Hart to Shrewsbury?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Well, I can tell you that you all didn't fall for the first real story, which was from the Daily Mirror, and it's Willian to Arsenal. That was one of the stories they published during the week. That supposedly they had a massive contract offer that they then rescinded because of the coronavirus pandemic. And apparently their offer was a million a month for 2 years.
Jesus Christ.
For Willian,
and he's 31.
Yeah, 33. Oh. Yeah, exactly. No, you're right the first time. He's 33.
Although, in all fairness, it is the Daily Mirror. Now, I understand, like, we'll get into it a bit later, that Arsenal are a bit of a fucking sham at board level right now.
Yes.
But even then, I think that's horseshit.
Yeah, in fairness.
That's like buying David Luiz for 24 million for 1 year for definite, and then an option of a second year. Like, that's that much bullshit. No one would ever do that.
No, that's nonsense. That's nonsense. That would never happen.
Taking out another year on his contract, which is basically like horseshit wrapped in bullshit. You know?
Exactly. That would never happen, though. That's too ridiculous. And what isn't ridiculous, though, is my other real story, which is Joe Hart to Shrewsbury. They reported that on the day he was released to Burnley, and they reckon that Shrewsbury are the only team that are willing to offer a contract to Joe Hart.
That is such a climb, then.
Isn't it? Ironically enough, another paper, Daily Express, claimed that Arsenal were the only ones interested in Joe Hart because of Bert Leno's injury. But now we know it's not that serious, so highly unlikely to see Joe Hart in an Arsenal jersey. Just saying. So yes, my fake story was Shane Duffy to Celtic with Edward and Cham going the opposite way. Yeah, I actually made up the entire Edward and Cham part up. The FIFA just said Shane Duffy to Celtic, and I said that would never fucking happen. So I have to sweeten this deal somehow to make it sound more legitimate. But Burpot didn't fall for it though. So well done to you. You got a pretty decent run on Transfer Guff so far, I must say. It's been good going for you. Speaking of fun, one of our regular segments is back because football's back. It's VAR Wars. Pew, pew. So, like I said, we do have there were several incidents over the at the end of the lockdown because obviously nothing was happening. So I want to tell you from now, I mentioned at the start there about Aston Villa and Sheffield United and the fiasco that was the goal line technology and VAR not failing. I'm sure you guys would agree with this, but I decided to mark that as a -1 to Sheffield United because that was bollocks. Yeah. You know, VAR should have. That was complete bollocks. You know, and I think we should recognise that as part of the spreadsheet. So, so Sheffield United are -1. Following on then to match day 30, then just 2 incidents to tell you about. Manchester City gain a point because Aguero was given a penalty after Ben Mee fouled him. That was VAR approved. Man United got a point taken off them, -1, as Bruno Fernandes's dive was spotted by VAR against Spurs. So that's a -1 to them and takes them off the top spot of VAR Wars, by the way. So big developments there. 3 incidents to tell you about then in match day 31, as it were. The first one comes from the Spurs game where Heung-min Son, his goal was ruled off by offside because his toe was offside. So bad luck there.
It was such a tight line, but I was like,
yes, if only he had smaller feet, this wouldn't be a problem. That's just bad luck, really, you know. And the other 2 incidents come from the same game, and preferably the same incident, the Fernandinho handball. So a point goes to Chelsea for the penalty that was given by VAR, and then a -1 goes to Man City for the Fernandinho red card. So points all round in that one. So as it stands, lads, we have... Yeah, absolutely. We have 2 winners currently of VAR Wars, which is Man United and Newcastle United. They're both on 3 points. And we currently have 2 losers of VAR Wars, which is Liverpool and Sheffield United. They're both on -4. So bad luck to them, I guess. I don't know which way to put it. But yeah, it's basically between those 2 teams to be winners and or losers. And speaking of losers, it's time to revisit the P45 Cru. So there happened a few seconds over the lockdown, but they're not. I'm not going to count them because they weren't like football oriented. They were because like the clubs can't afford to keep these managers on. So in the case of one team, they sacked their manager and asked one of their players to debutise as manager because he's cheaper. So just saying, bad luck to Nigel Clough, but hey, at least your captain got your job. Is that good? I don't know. I'm not following this anymore.
I heard that he nobly stepped down, but now that you're saying that he's like, you know, it was asked to step down, that makes it a lot less noble.
Yeah, this is it. Like it's because like you're too much money, and your dad was much better as a manager. No offense. So yeah, step aside. Basically, it's pretty sad, really. But the one sacking that did happen because of football came from the Championship, and that was Jonathan Woodgate's Middlesbrough now being transformed into just Middlesbrough, as they sacked Woodgate after losing 2-0 to Swansea. And they replaced him with fucking Neil Warnock.
Yes, Tony Soprano's mother.
He's back. Return of the fucking Mac. So, yeah, well done to them. Obviously, Swansea then get to kill. That's their first of the season, I guess. Just a gentle reminder, your 4 candidates, I should say, for the P45 Cru are still Bristol City, Southampton, Tranmere Rovers, and Salford City. Fair to say only Bristol and Southampton can really go for this prize. So bad luck to Tranmere and Salford for your league's ending. So no one else can get sacked on your behalf. But good efforts all the same. You know, you tried your best. That's all we can say. So yeah, that's the end of that one. Now, where would we be if we didn't have a stat attack, lads? So, as ever, I've scrounged up 5 questions to tickle the brains of my 2 colleagues here to see if you can get them right. So, my first question is this. Liverpool were crowned Premier League champions this week, with Alisson Becker currently recording 12 clean sheets. But who currently shares the Golden Glove with him? So another goalkeeper has recorded 12 clean sheets so far.
Pope.
Nick Pope for Burnley.
Fuck, I was going to go for Pope as well.
You can go for Pope if you like.
Yeah, I'll go with Pope, yeah.
Well, it's a good thing you were, because that's the correct answer. She's so happy. I love it. Yes, Nick Pope currently has 12 clean sheets along with Alisson. Unfortunately, the Burnley smashing against Man City didn't help that, but here we are. Next question then. So you guys have won a piece. Anthony Martial scored his first career hat-trick for Manchester United this week. Who was the last player to score a hat-trick for Man United?
It has to be Pogba. Didn't he do it?
You going for Pogba?
I'll go Pogba.
That's wrong. It was Van Persie, the Dutch skunk.
And Neil is correct. It was Robin Van Persie back in 2013.
2013, yeah.
Yeah, 2013. Would you believe it? Said a lot about the club, yeah. So, about that. Neil, you're currently 2-1 up. I don't think we've ever had someone get full marks in a stat attack, which you're on so far. So let's see. Let's see if this works. Okay, question number 3. Raul Jimenez and Adama Traore is currently the best partnership in the Premier League, with his highest goal-assist combination between them. How many goals have they scored? So where Jimenez is the goal scorer and Traore is the assist, or vice versa?
Oh, well, vice versa as well.
I'm going to say 23.
Jesus, I'm trying to fucking think. Fuck. I'll go with 20.
20. The answer is 10. These are well overthinking that. But yeah, in fairness now, it's like 9 Jimenez and 1 Traore, so it wasn't that weighted. But yeah, they're the best combo in the league, and it's 10 goals. The second highest was Aguero and De Bruyne with 6. But unfortunately, Aguero wrecked his ACL, so that's not going to happen. So still 2-1 then to Neil. Question number 4. What La Liga record did Mallorca player Luca Romero break this week?
Oh, he's the youngest player to play in La Liga. He's like 15 years old.
Neil, do you agree with that?
Is the youngest starter? Is he? Did he start a game? The youngest starter?
No, I'll take both questions. You're both right. He is the youngest player to ever play and start in a Liga game. So you both get the point there. And Bert Boy, you were correct. He's 15 years, 271 days old. So he's a little baby. So yeah, 3-2 then. And coming up to the final question then. 71-year-old Neil Warnock was appointed Middlesbrough manager this week after the sacking of Jonathan Woodgate. How many clubs has Warnock managed in his career so far?
Jeez.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just jump out with 11.
Fuck you. 9.
The correct answer is 16. I have the list.
Hell.
Starting off in 1980, we have Gainsborough Trinity, Burton Albion, Scarborough, Notts County, Torquay United, Huddersfield Town, Plymouth Argyle, Oldham Athletic, Bury City, Sheffield United, Crystal Palace, Queen's Park Rangers, Leeds United, Crystal Palace again, Queen's Park Rangers again, Rotherham United, Cardiff City, and Middlesbrough. Neil Warnock has been in the game so long that 3 of those clubs are fucking extinct. That says a lot.
Oh,
A proper Brexiteer fucking career that man has had.
Wait a minute, was that 16 different positions, or how many different clubs? Like,
16 different clubs. Yeah.
16 different clubs.
Yes.
All right.
So he's had if you like, he's had 18 managerial reigns, but he's been at 16 different clubs. So yeah. Because like I said, he somehow got a job at Palace and QPR twice because he's mates with the chairman, I guess. So yeah, Neil, that means you win Stat Attack 3-2. Well done. Don't worry, Burtbot. Don't kill yourself, because you could win it back in the Hand of Cod.
This fella Ronaldo is a cod. I don't care if he scores.
I thought he was fucking dreading.
Rod Liddell, he's the guy who ran away and left his wife for a young one.
So, there's a few interesting choices here, but Bert, I think I'm going to start with you here, because there has been some news in the very stalled world of women's football, because we now know where the next 2023 World Cup is going to be, don't we?
Yes, it is. It has been awarded to the joint bid by New Zealand and Australia. There were several decent bids gone in for this. After the World Cup last year in France, they did want to take it to a different part of the world, i.e. Southern Hemisphere, or somewhere where time differences would be a factor, because everyone had to tune in to a European time. They wanted to kind of, make sure the other teams didn't have too much to... Going back to Europe again would have been confusing or annoying for them. So the far-flung places from us, bids included Japan, Argentina, I think.
Colombia, I think it was, wasn't it? Colombia was second shout.
I was going to come on to that. Colombia then, and then the joint bid between New Zealand and Australia. Now, I think this has kind of been overlooked when people were looking at the bids and things like that. Japan dropped out last week, or in the last week. They pulled out of the bid. They've got the Olympics coming up. They've got enough kind of going on that they're going to be kept fairly busy. New Zealand and Australia, they're hosting the Women's Rugby World Cup the year before. So they are going to have the infrastructure, as in transport. I know rugby pitches and soccer pitches tend to be near each other, but they would have the infrastructure. They will have the advertising. They will have hopefully brought in that kind of new audience of people watching women's sport from the rugby, and transferring that hopefully over, which was kind of part of what they were hoping was the case. And then you had Colombia's bid, which, in fairness, when you look at the technical, so you've just send in two reports. You've got your technical report, and then you've got your pizzazz and what we will do. And this is the technical bit is this is all the infrastructure we have right now, and then this is what we will have, sort of a thing. So first thing in their technical report is that they had no grounds within their report that were actually up to standard.
Okay.
The closest being 16,000 seats off. So basically, they would have had to have built like a brand new wing onto the main. I think it was actually their for the final, the proposed bid for the final venue was 16,000 seats short. So they had, I don't know whether it was a mock-up, because if it was an actual genuine attempt at saying this is what our stand would look like, it's like there's like a Hill 16 in Croke Park where there's kind of dipped and kind of there's like a shallow end to it. They would just extend into that with scaffold, and just add in a couple more seats over there. So it was that's kind of to visualize it, to give you an idea of how shoddy it looked.
So you're saying that one of the main stadiums for the Women's World Cup is going to be the Tallaght Stadium on the Europa League night?
Yeah, pretty much. As well as that, kind of one of the things that got to me is that currently Colombia's manager is settling with multiple players over historic sexual assault. And to say that, yes, we want women's football, we love women's football. Their league is failing because of lack of funding, and they've basically been told, well, you can have your own league if you can find someone to fund it for you, but the Colombian Football Association aren't going to fund it for you. So if you can win a sponsor, you're away, but we have nothing. We don't want to do anything with you. And their coach is still, I think, their coach, despite the fact that he's got these settlements out of court. They're settling outside of court to stop his name being dragged through the media all the time, I suppose. But thankfully, despite the fact that a lot of big FAs, like big football associations, voted for the Colombian bid, sense and sensibility won out, and the World Cup will be held in New Zealand. But it was just the kind of the approach. Infantino was being interviewed, and basically the way the tournament is voted for is different from when the men. So but I think it's just the size of the brown envelopes that they use for passing under the table. Yeah. I think the women are a bit smaller and because daintier, I suppose. You couldn't. Trying to explain this, I was so frustrated reading all of the reports that were coming out about this, and it was like the New Zealand Prime Minister has pretty much been getting fantastic publicity during COVID for how she's coped with COVID. And she's done so many things for equality in New Zealand. She's been very progressive, and she's getting a lot of love from around the world. She rang personally the FA chairperson who was representing the English FA in this bid to talk to him, just kind of just let you know, will we have your bid? And he refused to take a call. Considering this is the English FA, which, I've mentioned before as COD on several occasions, I'm not surprised, but just kind of seeing the outpouring of distress from the the women's soccer journalists based in England, it was just it was heartbreaking just to see how much their FA hates them. And then it was obviously as FAI, as people who live in the same country as the FAI, we can commiserate, we can understand. Now they're kind of seeing what we've had to deal with. Yeah. So they're my vote for CODs.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and again, just a wonderful episode of FIFA not really caring about women's football. When, let's face it, if a bid like that came from for the men's World Cup,
how can you say that they don't care about women's football? Did you not see United Passions? That documentary.
Sophie the cleaning lady.
Sophie cleaning lady. Feminist icon. Sophie cleaning lady.
Fucking hell.
A movie that went 20 minutes saying that Sepp Blatter wants to make women's football great again, and then never looking at another woman for the rest of the movie. That is fucking art. Talk about being as on brand as possible. Fucking genius.
It could only have been better if Tommy Wiseau directed it.
I'm pretty sure he did, to be honest with you, because I think everybody in that movie hates it. Even when they're performing, you could tell that Tim Roth is trying to genuinely try and forget that he's playing Sepp Blatter. He's trying to undergo some sort of double think that it makes him pretend he's in that other fucking show he's in. That kind of way.
He did say that his dad was spitting in his grave at that performance role, and that he only did the movie to get him out of a financial hole.
Yeah, he was bankrupt.
Yeah, he pretty much was. They offered him the role, and he turned around to them and went, "Look, I need this amount of money, otherwise then I'm up a certain creek without a certain paddle." And they went, "Okay then," and wrote me check for it. And he's like, "Fuck, I didn't think they'd do it."
We were going to spend this money on a women's tournament. No, we'll give it to Tim Roth.
He's good. I like him. I know of him. So
that's my thought.
I think I'm going to jump in here with my one. I promised this earlier in the show, but I'm going to talk about AFC Bournemouth and how essentially they are going to be the next, I don't know where they can put it, the next Leeds, the next whatever you want to call it. basically they are another victim of what I kind of call Premier League hubris, where they do exceptionally well in the first year with Eddie Howe, and they're a breath of fresh air with the way they kind of like played very honest, if a bit naive football, and had like a lot of players that people just kind of liked, but they never really did anything outside of that. And again, I think the goodwill does very much come from Eddie Howe himself, because I think he like a lot of the English press likes him because he's a young English coach in a time where like good English coaches didn't exist, and then suddenly you had like Sean Dyche arrive, and you had other like managers come along, and now in this point now a couple of years down the line, you can kind of see that Bournemouth and Eddie Howe are unfortunately a bit overrated, because there's been two very concerning trends at Bournemouth. That kind of betrays their kind of like little club mentality, and that is their horrendous transfer record. I'm just looking at it now, and to say the least, they have spent. Okay, so in just going to do a quick bit of maths here. In the last 3 years, they have spent upwards of 170 million euros on transfers, which again, some deals were very, very good. You could earmark the likes of Lewis Cook for 7 million. That's a good deal. He's a very good young player. Nathan Ake for 23. You could argue again, great signing for them. And perhaps you could throw in maybe David Brooks. He was 11 million from Sheffield. But really, for every good signing that Bournemouth have done, there is a Jordan Ibe for 18 million euro. There is a Asmir Begovic, which was a good signing at the time, but now he's on loan at AC Milan. You have a Dominic Solanke, who had 1 goal to his name when he was with his professional career at Liverpool, and they signed him for 21 million euro. Diego Rico.
Get relegated for that.
This is the thing. This is the trouble. They have put their faith in the wrong players, ultimately. They have tried to sign big money signings and like pumped them up. And again, you can say like, oh, well, that was last season. They bought Solanke last season. You know, they weren't going to make mistakes like that again. But alas, Arnaud Danjuma was their star signing this season for 18 million pounds. He's played 6 games, and he's a left winger. He is the backup to Ryan Fraser, which is another story I'll get to momentarily. But this is a constant trend of really bad mistakes when it comes to transfers. They let go of Tyrone Mings for 22 million to Aston Villa, which is a big mistake considering that Nathan Ake and Steve Cook is now the current defensive partnership, and Steve Cook is the wrong side of 30 at this rate and has had a horrendous season. So if they just held firm, they could have had a defensive partnership of Ake and Mings, which would have been a lot more defensive solid. Another detail with their squad planning was their goalkeepers. They had last season, they had a choice of Asmir Begovic, Arthur Borich, who was, let's face it, terrible, and he's still on the books somehow. And then a young goalkeeper called Mark Travers, who debuted against Spurs and had a brilliant game that potentially won them the match, let's face it, until Heung-min-Son had a hissy fit.
He's a very good goalkeeper. He's a really good one.
Yeah, he's only had 3 games this season because Bournemouth have committed to Aaron Ramsdale, who spent the last season on loan at Wimbledon. So they basically committed, no, this is the player we're going for, and we're not saying otherwise. They had a chance to use Asmir Begovic this season because he went on loan to Azerbaijan on deadline day. And instead of bringing him back into the squad when they were struggling in January, they loaned him out to AC Milan. They've had a massive hole in the midfield because they've relied on Harry Wilson, an on-loan player from ourselves, and he's done brilliantly. He is their second top goal scorer. But that comes after they've loaned out Harry Arter constantly, who I think is one of their better players, but gets not at all any fucking like praise for it, in my opinion. They signed Lys Mousset going to Sheffield was another odd one, considering that he signed him the year beforehand for quite a lot of money and didn't do much with him. Jermaine Defoe still on the books, even though he's been on loan at Rangers for 2 years and now will join Rangers. Okay, this is weird, right? He was on loan at Rangers, right? But for 2 weeks, he was a Bournemouth player and they could use him. But now they're not because he's going back to Rangers for permanently. And he's 39. Says more about Rangers, I know.
Oh my God.
But it's just, it's an organisational disaster from Bournemouth because they've also had these very disturbing trend about long-term injuries. If I'm not wrong, they have had 4 ACL injuries in 2 years. Lewis Cook, David Brooks, Charlie Daniels, and Callum Wilson. Not an ACL, but a knee injury. So you've had this disturbing trend of constant long-term injuries that have just kept going on and on and on, and it interferes with their squad planning. And especially considering that their squad planning has been basically resorting to extravagant transfers on, let's face it, really average players. Like, I don't know which parallel universe you live in, but Dominic Solanke is not 21 million euros. Neither is Jordan Ibe 18 million at the time. And that same Jordan Ibe is now leaving on a free Monday. They're not extending his contract. Ryan Fraser running down his contract as well, and he was their star player last season, if you believe the hype, and suddenly didn't get a move. I think he was angling for a move to Spurs, I think it was, last season, and he's still angling for a move there. It's not happening, and now they're going to let him go for free. So not only are they not making money off the star players, because let's face it, last season Bournemouth could have sold Callum Wilson to Chelsea for 40 million. The offer was there. Chelsea wanted Callum Wilson, and they turned it down for 40 million. You now look at him now, and he's only scored 9 goals this season. So Bournemouth are picking their battles very poorly with who they want to keep and who they want to sell. So fine, if you want to sell Tyrone Mings for big money, fair enough. But why aren't you selling Callum Wilson and making money for this club who, let's face it, are wholly dependent on Premier League money? Like, they have the smallest stadium in the league and therefore the smallest attendance. So they're not getting any money out of the gates. They have some of the smallest fan base, but statistically, their wage packet is one of the highest because they're spending extravagant money on Callum Wilson to keep him there. Ake, they're on like close to 70, 80k a year. And that's money they're not going to be able to keep up in the Championship next year. And let's face it, that's where they're heading. If it's not this year, it's the next year because the malaise is too long in there. They've relied on players like Adam Smith, Steve Cook, Charlie Daniels to the extent that one of those 3 will get a long-term injury and can't be used for the season. And you've got a rank amateur, rank amateur is unfair, a very inexperienced goalkeeper in Aaron Ramsdale, constantly fighting the Alamo. Despite how I don't see the potential in him myself, because I think he's just been thrown into the deep end too quickly. Especially considering, in my opinion, Mark Travers is a better goalkeeper based off the matches I've seen of him. So you've got critical flaws in your transfer dealings. You've got no natural money coming in from your club. They are trying to extend the stadium, but that's now stopped because of the coronavirus. Eddie Howe is still in the team, in the club, despite not really kicking on and doing something with Bournemouth. Like, they've kind of kept position really, and now this is the year they've hit the wall. And they've had periods like this over the year where, okay, we've had a bad session and now we're going to kick on. We're going to win 4 games in a row and we're safe and we kick on from there. Hasn't happened this year. And that's the issue now, is that they don't have the tools to get out of this mess because Callum Wilson isn't firing. Ryan Fraser is gone. He's out the door. And his replacement is, again, Arnaud Danjuma, who hasn't had any game time whatsoever this season and has scored 1 goal. So that's the players they're relying on. And the sad part is this is all self-inflicted. You could have easily not had this happen if you just thought about your squad planning. So I don't know if it's Eddie Howe, I don't know if it's the Russian owners, but somebody in there has fucked this up. And they fucked it up over a period of 3 or 4 years where they've just let the arrogance of the Premier League get to them. And this happens all the time. It happens to Stoke. It happened to Leeds years ago when they got big. It's a symptom of being in the Premier League too long if you're a small club and you don't know how to run the business properly. It happened to Villa. They got relegated. West Ham, Newcastle, just adds to the line. It's a constant trend with these teams that they completely screw the pooch when they don't need to. They could have easily not fucking messed this up, but here we are. So yeah, I think
when you're a small club and you've made 2, like, I'm just looking at the Solanke deals and the Ibe deals, like they're 2 big fuck ups.
Yes,
you can kind of say like, oh, bigger clubs can have bigger fuck ups and still survive. Like, trying to think like, well, Andy Carroll for 35 million.
Exactly.
Things like that. You can survive a flop like that because you're a big club.
Yeah.
But Bournemouth can't do that. And yeah, no, I agree with you. Like they're fairly doomed in terms of money wise.
Exactly. If someone with like a business sense was on the ball last year, they could have sold Callum Wilson for 40 million and Ryan Fraser for 20 to whoever was buying. That's 60 million into the club that you could have used yourself. But again, I think the reason they didn't sell those players is because they weren't confident in replacing them. Like they realized they were sold a Pup and Solanke and Ibe, who were players that they were touted to be like replacements for players like or at least backups for Wilson and Fraser. Never really happened. They were blessed to get Harry Wilson off us, quite frankly, because he's one of our more talented young players. They've been actually quite reliant on us for players over the years because they bought Klein, they signed Klein on loan for us last season, and he got injured, which was not a good sign. And then they wanted him again in January, and fortunately that curtailed because Klein snapped his ACL again. So it's been this just constant trend of like whatever they're doing in training, something's wrong, and whatever they're doing in transfers is wrong, and whatever Eddie Howe is doing to combine all that is wrong as well. So it's just a big soup of wrong.
As an Arsenal supporter, that does sound depressingly familiar.
Yeah, and this is it. Like it is. Again, it's the same thing for you guys because it's dragging you guys into like a midfield mess, and it's dragging Bournemouth down to the Championship. You know, it's a telltale story of a club run badly, which conveniently leads me on to you, Neil, because I think you're going to address one of the symptoms of a club being run badly.
Yeah, pretty much. It's Arsenal. Like it's absolutely terrible. I mean, when you consider how bad the dip Arsenal have made in the last 4 or 5 years, that doesn't happen without an absolute catastrophe at boardroom level. So, it's just the fucking, I don't know what's up with the fucking club being run now. There are ways big clubs deal with transfers, deal with contract situations, deal with loans, and Jesus Christ, this isn't it. So I don't know if you've seen that the FA actually published a list of agents' fees for the 2019-2020 season.
Mm-hmm.
We have paid, surprisingly enough, we've paid out £13.6 million in agents' fees over this course of this season, which is 2.5 million up from last season. Top of that is City and Liverpool with nearly £30 million each in agents' fees.
Yeah, it's massive for us. It's crazy.
Yeah, Manchester United have 27.5, Chelsea have 26, Everton have 17 million quid's worth of agents' fees, which is crazy when you consider that. Yeah, actually, Chelsea spent £40.5 million their outlay for the whole 2019-2020 season. Yeah, they paid 26 million in agents' fees. So that's insane.
Yeah,
I would have thought we were higher than that. Higher than the.
I was fucking amazed by that. But in any case, that's by the by. The loan situations with the players, with our 4 new signings, they're just crazy. Now, Mari, not surprised by. We've been saying, I think I said it in the very last podcast, and I said it in the one before that as well, that I always expected Mari to be made permanent. Same with Cedric. But giving David Luiz another year on the contract is
idiotic.
Crazy.
It's not even crazy. It's idiotic.
Now, the thoughts behind it apparently were that he's actually renegotiated. It's actually a new contract. It's not an extension. It's a new contract on greatly reduced terms, which allowed us to make the Cedric and Mari deals permanent. So he's not on. I think he was on like 150 grand a week, wasn't it?
It's something ridiculous like that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely not on that now. So that's something.
It's a step in the right direction.
It's a step in the fucking right direction, but like it's
which is something he can't do.
Yes, he cannot. So yeah, like it's just I don't understand. So the influence of Kia Joorabchian now is starting to really cripple the club.
Yes, that's who you're having as your cod. Just to be clear, is Kia himself.
Yeah, it's him on the board basically, because like there's like Wenger made it very, very clear that he wouldn't ever deal with agents like Joorabchian ever. After an incident with a player where Wenger was told by the agent, "Yep, he'll sign for you. That's grand." Wenger went to bed, woke up the next morning to find out the player had signed with Manchester United, and that the agent was actually just levering Arsenal's interest to get a higher deal. And then right then he just went, "We're never dealing with these people ever again. Never.
Yeah,
that's it." So yeah, but again, like just some of the signings that we made, like Cedric, yeah, we're okay with the signing, but he's injured.
You signed him injured, and you signed Mari injured.
Yeah, we signed him injured, but we signed Mari. Yeah, but like Cedric has had a long-term injury. Like Mari just had a niggle. Mari actually played. Cedric has been signed despite not having played a single minute for us. And it's like it's just I've no idea who's doing anything. Like, what the fuck is the thought behind any of what they're doing? Like, the right hand really does not know what the left hand is really doing, and it's fucking it's awful, And the problem is that it's all Joorabchian.
Yeah,
it's all him. Louise is represented by him. Cedric is represented by him.
And Mikel Arteta as well.
Yeah. He works close with Edu. Willian is represented by him. So that's the main. It's enough for a player to be represented by him to put that player high on the list that Arsenal are going to sign this guy.
Yeah,
because that's apparently how it works. Which is I've got this player on my books. He's not going to be anybody else's books after this. You're going to give him 150 grand a week, and we'll just go, yeah, sure.
It occurs to me that it sounds like, it occurs to me that Arsenal, it sounds like they're trying to do what Wolves did with Jorge Mendes, where they're trying to have that kind of like special relationship with an agent so that you can basically get first dibs on players. Now with Wolves, like they've actually done that really, really well because Jorge has like the best shout on all the young Portuguese players, and as it turns out, there's quite a lot of them, which is why he'd been able to sign the likes of Ruben Neves on the sly when teams like Man United were scouting him back when Wolves were in the Championship. And even just now this season, they signed the likes of Pedro Neto and Rafael Leao, and nobody noticed because, again, he had first dibs on those players and just immediately fast-tracked them to Wolves. So it feels like Arsenal were trying to do that, but with like a far less qualified agent and with far less qualified players. Like, okay, and again, it's no coincidence, by the way, that Coutinho's been linked to you, considering that that's his agent as well. So, like, it is purely the fact that it's such a law of diminishing returns because now you're only going to get linked with players of that agent. Anyone else is going to be down then.
Well, for just to try and do some counterbalance that we're not piling in on them. When the FA put out the list of intermediary transactions, it later turned out that what it turned out as is that his company, Sport Invest UK, actually represented Arsenal in Iwobi's 35 million quid move to Everton.
Oh, well,
so you can say that it sometimes does work with us, but like we're getting killed,
Like, can I just jump in there that like last season we or it wasn't even last season, it was like a couple of seasons ago, Mislintat left because he had this statistics, like we have our own statistics company working with us that bring us these players that based on the stats, this is what is a good investment for us here. And Raul Signelli apparently was like, nah, this agent told me this player's better. And Mizenstat was like, fuck this. If you're just going to take the word of an agent over this, piece of paper that says all the stats, I'm out of here, because like he was brought in by kind of Wenger's era of stats-based approach and kind of data-driven research in scouting, whereas Round Sanelli comes in and is like, yes, this guy's my friend, he's going to give us some deals. Yes. And it just seems like we're fucked.
Yeah, there's like a serious dependence now on an agent who, let's face it, like as I was saying, like you've got such a limited shortlist now of players you can go for. It's either his way or no way, and it's kind of what like Mino Raiola wanted to do with Man United, but fair play, Man United kind of had the cop on to go, just tell him to fuck off, like tell him to stop hanging around.
Raiola represents so many different players. Like Jarabjian, I mean, like when you look at the players he kind of represents, who the fuck, like which of them are any good? He represents Kurzawa is on his books. So that's one thing. Coutinho is on his books. We've said that.
Yeah.
Willian is as well. We've said that as well. Pereira is on his books, but then again, he's contracted at Manchester United until 2024.
And he's not that good anyway.
He's not that good anyway. Riquelme is on there. The Atletico Madrid, the fucking winger. He's out of contract next season. So that might be a good one. But there's not really working.
No.
Like, but that's it. Like that's it. Pretty much. So.
Like from a squad planning point of view, like you can like the David Luiz contract was a red flag for me, because as we've mentioned ad nauseum on this podcast, Arsenal have 9 centre backs on the books. David Luiz was always meant to be a short-term fix for what is essentially an inexperienced back line. But the fact is that like you could really only feasibly say you're going to get a year or two out of Luiz anyway. But considering that he's made 4 like penalties, like he's given away 4 penalties for you guys this season, and he's sent off twice.
He's conceded 4 penalties.
Yeah,
I think he's been sent off twice.
He's had 7 errors leading to goals from other teams.
Yeah. So, like, with that in mind, then, and like, again, but gentle minded, like 9 centre backs on the books, you're obviously not brave enough to sell 1 or 2 of them. But what you've done now is that you've pinned your flag to Luiz, which means now, depending on how the season goes for you guys could finish somewhere like 10th or 11th. That really shrinks down what you can do, like transfer wise, because very few players will want to go to 10th place Arsenal. It's a lot better if you're going to 6th place Arsenal with like an actual potential partnership with Mikel Arteta to go with. Especially if you are trying to attract someone like a Coutinho or a Willian to the team with big money. It's not going to happen. But also that now you are going to force the play to sell a player like Callum Chambers or Rob Holding, because now you've said, no, we're endorsing David Luiz. He's our man. We've signed him for another year, giving him big money. When what you could have done is see the forest from the trees and say, we're not going to keep David Luiz because we've got Saliba on the way in. And like that transfer seems to have been forgotten about at a boardroom level. Like you've got this 21-year-old centre-back on the way in. How are you going to play him? How are you going to play Socrates when he's back from injury? How are you going to play Callum Chambers, who is potentially your best centre-back or best number 6 in your day? You don't play him in position. How are you going to play Holding, who is clearly one of your better defenders on his day, but you won't play him regularly enough? Mustafi is still on the books, you won't sell him. Luiz is still on the books, you won't sell him. And Pedro Palomari is new.
I don't think it's necessarily won't sell. We can't. Like, who the fuck will buy them?
But that's the difference. You have done that. That is your fault, because you've given these players such extravagant wage packets that they're so unsellable. Like Ozil, like fair play. Like I wouldn't say fair play to him, but like he's not going to go anywhere, because why would he? Like he's loaded where he is, and like he's in such like down straits with the Arsenal team. He's not going to even play football either. So he's going to sit there and earn the money, and he costs too much to get rid of. So like he's quids in. Aubameyang is not too far away from that either. Like he's not happy playing on the left flank, holding out, haggling on a contract when he's just waiting for a team like Barcelona or Real Madrid to come knocking and say, here, come play for us. We know what we're doing. Although they don't, obviously.
Oh, here, anyway, with regards to this transfer window for the next season, that opens end of July, doesn't it?
I think the official window opens August and it closes at Halloween, I think. So it's a fairly long window. Really? I thought it is not opening like end of July, like as soon as the season ends. That's what I mean. Yeah, it basically started. I think the window starts 1st of August and it ends Halloween, as far as I remember.
All right then.
But like I said, but the point still stands. Like obviously, like you're still looking at like 9 or 10 centre backs in the books when you can only play 2 or 3 at a time. It's horrendous planning, especially considering that like you got all these defenders, but you got a midfield that is like so fucking basic. And like wingers and wing backs who are not fit, and strikers who are just like, it's Aubameyang, Lacazette, 2 wonderful strikers, and you can only play one at a time because now you want to get Nketiah on the book. It's a fucking mess, lads. Like we slag off Spurs for like bad planning sometimes, but sometimes you have to look at yourselves and go, yeah, we're shit too. Like,
oh yeah, it's been absolutely, it's been a joke.
Yeah,
and it's also,
like we kind of said this. Like Emery was dead set on Zaha last year. And the board decided against Emery's wishes that like, no, we'll just get Pepe instead. But neither Zaha or Pepe would have been anybody's top priority at that stage. It was get a centre mid, get a good CAM, get someone in to replace fucking Ramsey. Mentioned it earlier on. He is one of the things that we have missed the most since Wenger left and Ramsey left. Like Ramsey, despite kind of deciding he was going to have to leave on a free at the end of the season, played some of his best football for Arsenal because perhaps he was trying to showcase to the clubs like what you're missing. Like this is what you're missing, Arsenal now. I'm gonna have to vote on Neil's COD for this because I'm directly affected by it, and it was a very close runner for myself to be picked as my COD. So, Neil gets my vote.
And I'll go with Orkbot's perpetual woman-hating football.
United Passions Against Women, I think is the full title.
United Passions, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, look, all you have to do is invoke United Passions, and it's gonna work.
Yeah, it's great. Gerard Depardieu is going to save women's football, lads. Confirmed. On the deciding vote here, it's a slam dunk, lads. It's Arsenal. It's Kia Jarabjin. It's everything. Arsenal at a boardroom level are fucking shambles. Like you can laugh at the likes of West Ham, you can laugh at the likes of Newcastle, but lads, you're sitting in a glass house here. Like you can, as much as you want to, as much as you are aware of it. Like a lot of Arsenal fans kind of don't want to admit it themselves. Like. This is not going to be a fun few years for you guys. I
think a lot of Arsenal fans you'll find are only a little too vocal.
Yes, true. But in fairness to you lads, like look at the likes of and I'm sure you're going to hate me to saying this, but look at the likes of Chelsea and Man United. Like they have they're kind of like a year ahead of you in the sense where like they have got like people in who have got like a certified club identity. Okay, Solskjaer and Lampard are not like experienced like coaches by any means, but they represent the club in some fashion. And all you have to do is basically listen to them. They know the club better than the boardroom at this rate because they've been there longer. Like seniority kind of goes out the window when you have like fuckers like Ed Woodward running the club. Like listen to the people who know the club more than they do. It's easy. You can only hope that the Arsenal backroom follow suit on that. Otherwise, you're fucked. Like you're gonna become like a Newcastle, unfortunately.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a nice depressing note to end the podcast on. It's fair to say. But Jesus, yeah. We've been podcasting for quite some time here, lads. I'm not going to lie. So thank you for listening to the whole thing if you have. And we'll see you for the next one, whenever that may be. We've got a lot of match days on the way, so we might just like condense everything to more than just 2 podcasts rather than every 2. Because, there's a lot of trash going on right now. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. If you have gone through the whole way. I've been Jonathan. my colleagues as ever, Burkbot and Neil. Thank you for joining us, lads. Always a pleasure talking to you, especially now that I can gloat for the rest of the season. Until then, guys, thank you for your company tonight, and we'll see you next time, because that was Liquid Football.
Woo!